from the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David SMOAK and Craig SMOAK.
All right, here we go on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome, 365 Sports, the SMOAK Show. I'm David SMOAK along with Craig SMOAK. We appreciate your time every day that you give it to us. And thank you as we continue with most of the story and the continual story involving the eligibility of Texas Tech quarterback in Brendan Sorsby. Craig SMOAK, I kind of thought this was going to be the case yesterday. There were some ADs in the Big 12 that were saying some things that were firing off at the decision, some being quoted, some not being quoted. I mentioned some from text to them today and even yesterday. And today they had a meeting. And in the end, what did you expect to come out of the Big 12 conference call involving Texas Tech and Brendan Sorsby?
Well, what's up, everybody? How you doing, chat? Good to be with you once again. Hope you're having a great day, and thanks for being with us. Yeah, I didn't expect anything substantial from the Big 12 today. I know that yesterday was just seemingly a never-ending carousel of quotes and comments, some anonymous, some not, lots and lots and lots of opinions. A lot of people not reading what they were responding to, as I learned in my comments quite a bit last night, and just a lot of craziness. So today seems just very tame in comparison, but yeah, this story isn't going anywhere. And the part about the Big 12, I mean, they've released a statement now at this point in regards to the meeting today, and it says on behalf of Commissioner Brett Yormark, we had a thoughtful and productive conversation with our ADs today as we continue to work through the broader implications of this situation. Many of our athletic directors voiced their opinions. We will continue to have open and honest dialogue amongst the group, and until there is something to report, these conversations will remain with the conference. So pretty standard stuff there, not revealing too much of what was said and not letting it get out while they navigate whatever those conversations actually look like. I can imagine there was a lot of frustration. Gene Taylor on the record. Certainly, I'm sure he had something to say if he was there and involved. And yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack. I mean, there's a lot of angles and a lot of different ways you can look at this story. All along, I've been pretty clear in how we've looked at this story. But the result yesterday just had people losing their minds one way or the other. So I'll kind of chime in where I see fit. But as far as the Big 12 specifically goes, I didn't think that we'd have some we're suspending Texas Tech for the rest of the season or we're fining them $1 million. I think less than 24 hours is way too quick to have to come to any type of a conclusion like that. So I think we'll just see what the next few days and weeks hold. But yeah, there's a lot of angry people right now.
I was able to share some texts because I wanted to hear from some of the ADs that they are really good about responding. One of them told me it was a cordial yet direct as to the issue and more information as opposed to any major decision being made. That was from one. From another one, I was told that shared ideas and more, but that they were going to allow Brett Yormark to be the name and the person who represents the core, all of us, 16 programs within the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what ultimately that means or indicates really, other than they're being careful about how they go about this and not reacting just willy-nilly and going off of emotions, which is the smart thing to do. I think, yeah, let the commissioner be the spokesperson for this all. I don't believe you can really turn around. I mean, if you're Cincinnati's AD, what are you saying about this? What can you really say? I mean, they're not completely in the clear as far as what they knew and all of those things. So I don't think Cincinnati can really walk into that room or onto that conference call and demand anything. And I think rightfully so. If you're a Texas Tech fan, you shouldn't be whatabouting on everything, but you can say, well, what about Cincinnati and what did they know? I think that's still a very valid question, as it is for Indiana as well. So yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting to see, because I'm not sure really what you can expect the Big 12 to do. I mean, as far as punishing their own school, did the Big 10 punish Michigan? Did the Big 10 make Penn State forfeit all their games or make a demand that none of their teams play them? I don't recall that, no. I also don't recall, and I probably need to look into that, the very minor details of kind of how all that was handled at the conference level. My memory is not fresh on how the Big Ten handled all of those things, but I've never, even since the announcement was made yesterday, anticipated that today we'd be talking about the Big 12 exiting this meeting and levying some sort of a punishment on Tech. I think you've got to be very careful about, it's one of your own, whether you agree with what has happened here or how it's all gone down or not. This is still one of your own. I don't think that they are impervious from any criticism or some sort, like a punishment seems like too harsh a word. I don't think you can punish them. I think you've got to be very careful walking the line of, they're one of us, and how did we treat Baylor when they had their situation, right? Like, how have we treated others when they've had their situations? How did we treat Iowa State when they had their gambling situation? And you've got to be careful knowing that, hey, that could be your school one day too, right? Well, how do we punish Tech but not punish Cincinnati?
Well, let's go back to, and I want to go back to 2016. The Pepper Hamilton report, Art Browse fired, the sexual assault scandal at Baylor. And if you remember, we were, I think at Big 12 Media Days was at the Omni in downtown Dallas, and there were people everywhere, ADs, presidents, Oklahoma's David Bourne, among others, who were saying, and there was the suggestion to kick Baylor out of the Big 12. I mean, literally get them out. And it was an overreaction. Maybe it was a valid opinion, but it was dumb. Because you're hurting, as you said, one of your own. And in the end, we know what happened. There was a public reprimand, and there was a lot of beating of the chest, and there was a heavy fine, a very heavy fine, and that was it. But to say you're going to ban a team or kick them out of the conference is completely just an overreaction, and that was said even back in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, they're totally different situations as far as what we're talking about at the heart of each story, too. And I understand why one's more polarizing specifically for the sport, the integrity of the sport, but while the other one is far more horrific in real life, right? So, yeah, there was a very outward negative response to Baylor back then by many, if not almost everybody in the Big 12. And had some been able to take a vote, they would have booted them out. Now, what would have been, I guess, humorous about that is a couple of the ones that were really driving that would have been bouncing the conference in 2 years anyways, and planning that all along while they were also trying to get Baylor kicked out of the conference. But that's just a side thing that is involved there. But yeah, I mean, the Baylor situation, they didn't kick them out. There was a fine. They were very much like on a probationary period.
Absolutely.
And I can see where that's maybe where you come in, but I don't think you make that decision in less than 24 hours. That's my point. I wasn't expecting anything today. I think, like the statement says, conversations will continue. Maybe they reach a point where they say, hey, Tech, if this happens, then you get hit with this, or this, consider yourselves on probation. Maybe there's something along those lines. But I would be hesitant to predict anything like that because I just don't know enough about the conference makeup and what's really at their disposal to use. But yes, I know what it was like several years ago with Baylor. That's one of the things, too, I found interesting in perusing social media is just trying to get a lay of the land. And it was very mixed. It was very mixed. There were a lot of Tech fans that are like, middle fingers to the sky, and we're going to kick y'all's asses and do something about it. And then there was a ton of Red Raider fans that were also like, this is not cool. This isn't worth it. I wish we'd have just kicked him to the curb and moved on. And so I saw a little bit of everything. And then obviously the outside opinion, I mean, that was pretty clear. It's like 99% anti-Tech and like 1% going, well, maybe give them the benefit of the doubt. But it was bizarre to see what must be younger fans who are clearly talking out of their depth, who are like, well, no one cared when Penn State did anything, and no one cared when Baylor. It's like, you were not alive if you were saying something like ESPN was literally planted for like 2 consecutive months on campus.
Maybe 6 to 8 months.
Maybe 6 to 8 daily live reports from campus for months on end, daily articles, daily Paula Levine
crawls
updates.
On ESPN.
Mark Schlabach here for like 6 months. I mean, it was insane. Michigan State live sports centers on campus, Penn State, tons of reporting. So I think I clearly just ran into some people that were clearly out of their depth, a little bit too young to know what they were talking about. But it was wild just walking through all the opinions and some of the reactions, the extreme and this way or extreme in that way. It's a story that's got a lot of people up in arms. That's for damn sure.
Michigan State, Penn State, Baylor, among some others. I think even other schools. That was about some assault of
and that's a different
treatment of human beings.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that Penn State's initial penalties from the NCAA. Eventually, a lot of those were neutered. But by the NCAA, they actually just took away. They took away wins, and then eventually it was a big fine. And a few other things, but there was eventually Penn State showed the way. Baylor had to go through like quarterly meetings with whoever. And eventually there was a lot of question about how much is the fine, but that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, no.
This is now, and this is about a player who's eligible, who has admitted to gambling on the game.
Yeah, and I'm not comparing the situations of the subject matter. I'm just saying in wading through all this talk yesterday, it was just, that was one of the things that stood out was like, well, nobody cared about when they happened. Why is everybody focused on Tech? It's like, you are delusional if you think nobody cared about those stories. They cared way more than they cared about this one because that was far darker, those stories than what we're dealing with here. So to bring some levity, yeah, we are ultimately only talking about a guy gambling on his sport. But for people that care about this sport, that was a very surprising and just catastrophic decision made by that judge yesterday in a lot of different ways. So we're in the immediate fallout of it. I don't know where it leads, but the Big 12 is going to continue to have conversations about what, if anything, they do with Texas Tech. And Texas Tech's obviously got their stance on everything, and I've got some opinions on said stance that we can get into ultimately. But I don't know where this goes next. Just to kind of put a bow on it, I don't know where it goes next, but yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. And just we're going to move on in a week and not be talking about this anymore.
There is an executive board meeting Thursday planned. There is also a potential meeting next week, a full board meeting next week that is also a possibility that occurs. So there's a couple of more things. I was told that Kirby Hocutt, I did not get confirmation if all 16 ADs were on the conference call, but I was told that Kirby Hocutt was a part of that as well. And then I actually just asked the question, what can be done? What can be done? And what I was told is that the discussion was there are tools in place, but a decision on anything with legal crosshairs is not imminent in any way from the Big 12.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect there would be, because what could you do? I mean, a judge, speaking of legal, this was a legal decision made by a judge. So it's not as though Tech went out and broke any sort of legal rules here. Tech did what they felt was best and in their best interest, obviously, and they have doubled down on the thoughts that they have done the right thing, and they are only more steadfast, I think, in that opinion that they've done everything that they should do and that they feel they were obligated to do for Brennan Sorsby. A lot of people, the majority of people, disagree with that, and we can get into that a little bit further as well. But Tech made their decision on what path they were going to take, and everybody's reacting to it, and the Big 12's in the process of what that reaction will be, and I guess we'll learn more later on this week. But I do think that it's very interesting just how big this got so quickly. I anticipated if that unlikely scenario happened where he got the relief, that people would lose their minds, but it's been really crazy to just see all the opinions all over the map. So very curious now what the Big 12 does. And at the same time, it's like you're not going to boot them out of the conference. You're not going to hinder them to the point where now you're hurting yourself too, right? I mean, they are a member of your league after all. So yeah, I don't know what are actual options out there for them, but I am very curious to sit back and see what comes next from that.
Well, here's a couple more. This is from Fernando Lobo. He's the AD at Colorado. Here's his quote from yesterday. This is late yesterday. The injunction issued today regarding Brendan Sorsby is troubling as his admitted actions are a clear violation of long-held standards of integrity in college athletics. Caring for student athletes is important, but so is accountability, and this injunction is a clear affront to the competitive principles that have been the foundation of college sports for more than a century. We will continue to engage with the Big 12 Conference and also our peers at this time, which is what a part of what they did. I was told that it was a very cordial meeting. Like I said, no one was like raising their voice or slamming their fist. It was very cordial, more of a learning session about what can be some of the options, and a few others getting some things off their chest. Now, legally, what can be done? By who? Here is Scott Schneider on a quote. This is from Alex Byington in an article about what can be done now that the ruling came down yesterday morning. And of course, we know there's an appeal can be in February. The NCAA has officially appealed it to try to get it expedited. He said there's definitely a basis to do it under the bylaws, as far as for the Big 12 to they themselves make a ruling here. And you just wonder, with all the chatter, if Big 12 schools or institutions are looking for a way outside of the legal process to try to deal with this, then this would be, at least in theory, a viable avenue. Do you think any of this is likely? No, I do not. That's from Scott Schneider. I invited him to come on the show, along with others, to kind of give us their take. But I think they're all still trying to digest a lot of what's going on, too.
So, I mean, like I said a second ago, I am curious to hear what comes from this, but I don't know what they can actually do. And it sounds like people who are far more well-versed in what can be done don't even know what they're likely to do. And I don't know how do you punish them? Why would you punish them? Because if you punish them, you got to punish Cincinnati too, right? And you are punishing them for what exactly?
Who? The Texas Tech? To me, you're punishing them because you're pissed. You're punishing them because you don't agree with the judge's ruling that Tech had nothing to do with, other than the fact the transfer quarterback is playing for them.
I mean, this just sounds to me, though, like as much as I feel like they got the break here, and they clearly did because they got their way, they got what they wanted, as unlikely as it seemed from the outside looking in, I don't know what they did wrong. Like, I totally understand why people are angry about the decision. I don't like the decision either. I totally understand why people feel like Texas Tech isn't the savior of college sports. I can totally understand why people are sick of seeing Cody Campbell, especially in the last 24 hours, and him threatening to sue a guy on Twitter and people throwing mud at him. I can understand why people are frustrated. That's very easy to see. I don't understand, though, what Texas Tech did wrong that you're going to punish them for. If somebody can explain that to me, then I'll be happy to have this conversation. But it's not as though they went and knowingly broke a rule. It's not as though they knew this and played him. We have no proof of that. It's not as though like anything has occurred on Texas Tech's end where you go, they need to have this taken away from them or they're banned from doing this. If you think that Texas Tech's not good for college sports and you don't want to play them, like Georgia doesn't want to do that now, and yes, I understand the glass houses and all of that, then that's one thing. That's their right. But if you're the Big 12, what did your member school do that you're going to punish them for because Twitter's pissed? Okay, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to follow Twitter's lead because Twitter will lead us down the wrong path 99% of the time because they're just the people outside with the pitchforks and the torches wanting blood. And I don't see where you have any avenue where you can logically explain why Texas Tech would be punished by the conference itself. Yes, we can all be pissed at the outcome, but they didn't break any rules. So I just find this to be like a witch hunt on Twitter, not the backlash as far as the decision itself, but this demand of, well, Brett Yormark better do something or else, or Brett Yormark better do this, or do what exactly and for what exactly? Like, I'm all for being open-minded. I'm all for calling a spade and hey, being even-handed and equal across, like, as far as how you treat your brands. And if you feel like they err and they cross the line, then yeah, they need to get punished for that. But I don't know what Texas Tech did that you're going to justify putting forth any punishment.
Well, and that's the thing. Is it because they're supporting and going to play a player who was going to be, or most everyone thought was going to be, ineligible? Can you reprimand Tech? Sure. Can you put out a statement? Sure. But what can you do to them for playing Brendan Sorsby?
He just got cleared by a judge. You can't do anything.
I'm making a point. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is I'm asking even those that are asking me in the chat. Well, they can go to bylaw, whatever. So what are you going to penalize them for? What are you, like? Let's say 9 teams, 9 programs, 9 members vote to what? To what? Make him ineligible? Is that what they're going to do? But what are they going to do to Texas Tech? And can they even make Brendan Sorsby ineligible when we're talking about a law where the appeal, although is there now, may not be heard until February? That's what I'm asking you too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've laid it out pretty clear. I don't know what you can justify doing. They didn't break any rules, and they didn't play him when he wasn't supposed to be playing, and he didn't technically get a judge's ruling and then go play anyways. I mean, he got the ruling literally yesterday. He was cleared to play. There's no legal rules that have been broken that are going to be enforced. I know he underage gambled. If you want to say, well, they need to be popped because he underage gambled. Okay, then you're going to pop Indiana and Cincinnati. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm all for if you feel there's a need to punish them, but you got to explain what they're going to be punished for. Texas Tech specifically in this case. What did they do other than support their athlete? And I am not in full agreement with everything that's happened out of Lubbock. I think Cody Campbell's really done some damage to them in the last 24 hours. I really do. But we can get into that at some other point if you want to. But beyond that, I'm looking at this as equal across the board. If this was TCU or if this was West Virginia or whoever, okay, be pissed at West Virginia that they brought the guy on board and that they dug their claws in and they decided, well, rather than just boot him off the team and not have him play, we're going to fight this, we're going to back him, and we're the reason why he eventually got this was because we supported him the way that he did. Without our support, he's not getting this because we could have just said, you're not on the team anymore.
Yeah, no matter what the judge said. Yeah.
If you want to argue that's what they should have done, then okay, I'm all ears for that. But as far as talking about punishments, again, what are you punishing them for? Supporting their player? That doesn't make any sense, guys.
Yeah, because in this day and age, if you don't, then you'll get thrown under the bus because you're not showing enough compassion and support of said player. From General Urs, Texas Tech shouldn't be punished unless they decide to throw Sorsby onto the field. It's all in their hands now. And there are, General, you're not the only one that feels that way, that the problem is that Tech will play him with the judge ruling that he has eligibility left. And I do wonder, out of 130-something FBS programs, if they were in the same situation, how many would not play Brendan Sorsby?
I mean, I think a bunch that are saying they would, but they can say they wouldn't because they don't have to actually deal with that. I don't think that public pressure will get to the point where Texas Tech caves and suddenly decides to bend the knee and not play Brendan Sorsby at this point. You got all the way here to the judge's ruling. You clearly have a huge investment. You've bent over backwards to accommodate this young man, even though he put you in this position. I mean, I'd be a little bit embarrassed about the fact, and I understand there are a lot of Tech fans of how much they've been over backwards to accommodate them, where on the one hand, you're saying, hey, the kindness of Texas Tech supporting their own big hearts and all that. But on the other hand, saying, yeah, but you're doing this because he's the multi-million-dollar quarterback that you're hoping will win you a national championship. And we're not all dumb, and it's not like we don't see that. Would this be the same thing if it was the mathematics student who has no bearing on you making any money? Yeah, you'd still have some options for him, but would you go to bat for him the way that you're going to bat for this guy in Brendan Sorsby, to the point where you're willing to throw everything into utter disarray and maybe pretty significantly negatively harm your future opportunities because you're going to war so much for this young man? So on the one hand, you can look at it from the standpoint of it's admirable how much they've stuck by him, but you can absolutely on the other hand go, yeah, but you're only doing that because of this, and we're not going to solve that problem. Everybody's got their opinions on it. But they drew their line in the sand. They decided to stick by Sorsby for, I'm sure, a variety of different reasons. And they're going to live with the fallout of that. And I don't think that fallout includes them suddenly, after throwing all this support behind him, abruptly, because the pressure gets too high, announcing in a month, oh, well, never mind, we're not going to play him. That's to me something that is just super unlikely. I can't imagine a scenario where the pressure would get high enough that they would turn at this point and make a decision like that. So it's a fascinating story. The reaction to it's been fascinating as well, and there's a ton to unpack. And I think as far as the Big 12 piece of this goes, they'll continue talking and we'll see what comes of that. But I outside of saying, like, we all now from here moving on forward have agreed that if anybody has a situation where there's an opportunity for a player like this, we all agree we're not going to play that player. Like something like that, you come to an agreement. And if somebody decides they're going to try to push that or violate that, then we are going to react so-and-so. But again, there's a judge's decision involved here. So now you're going to be the judge, jury as well on something that was already cleared. I don't know where your angle is here outside of people are pissed and they want blood. But as far as having an actual reason to punish them, there's not one right now that makes any sense.
There are discussions in the chat room, which I get because of the bylaws, and that's one of the things that the member schools sign. But I'm not getting the maybe answer to my question. Yes, there is a bylaw. If member institutions want to sanction Texas Tech for whatever reason, what would the sanction be? Are you saying they can't play conference football this year? That's not going to happen. Can they withhold money from television revenue with the Big 12, ESPN, Fox? Maybe. But other than that, what can they do as far as obviously the best thing that could happen for Tech would be Brendan Sorsby says, F it, this isn't worth it. I need to leave, and I need to give them a chance to breathe.
I mean, at this point,
what are the chances that's going to happen? Maybe at some point he just says, I'm hurting the institution. I've hurt the institution, and I need to move on.
I mean, at this point, it's been all about Brendan Sorsby and him getting his way. So I don't see that being the path that we walk down now. I don't think this young man, after all of this, just suddenly gets on the other side of it, gets exactly what he wanted, his money, his opportunity, his pathway to play college football for another year, and then he just throws that away because Twitter's mad. I mean, again, you're going to have to give me something other than the public's pissed. Okay, doesn't change what we're allowed to do moving forward. And I want to be very clear. I totally get that. But looking at it from their point of view, yeah, so Joe on Twitter, Minnesota fans really thinks that we're bad for college football. So you know what? I know we went through all this process and all these court hearings and all this decision making and all this money talk and all, but you know what? Joe in Minnesota's pissed. I got to just throw in the towel. Like, that's not happening. Okay. This young man's demonstrated nothing to tell us that he's going to just fall on the sword now after all this and not play football, because apparently it was so crucial to his mental health that he had to, or else like the world was going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Right?
Then all of a sudden, if it is crucial that he plays to help him with his mental health, then why walk away from that if that was your argument from Jeffrey Kessler in the first place?
So yes, there are bylaws, guys, that technically if the Big 12 wants to pursue a certain avenue, I'm just unclear on, again, what you are pursuing. That they took in a player that had no broken laws as far as, yes, he gambled underage. Is that enough to go get a super majority in the conference and then levy what punishment? What punishment are you giving them? Are you banning them from the Big 12 title game? Are you saying they can't go to the CFP? Are you making them forfeit games? Well, get ready for more lawsuits, and then get ready for a Big 12 that's as fractured as it's ever been before, because now everybody's taking a side versus a team, whether valid or not, to try and punish them and treat them like they're not one of their own. And so I don't buy that there's going to be some big extravagant punishment. I think there might be a statement or something. I think there might be a probationary type of a deal where they come to some sort of an arrangement where all of the schools agree, all right, we're not touching this particular instance of a type of transfer or something along those lines. But again, what's Cincinnati going to say? They're going to be like, yeah, kick their ass. Give them a penalty. Is Baylor going to be going like, yeah, they deserve the death penalty? Oh, wait. So be careful because was Iowa State, was it not them just 3-4 years ago? And I know it looks different now than it did back then, but they're very familiar of the witch hunt and how all that can go. So, you don't know.
If I'm Iowa State and I am in Iowa, and they are, and they should be, and they have a right to feel like they got screwed in this deal because 3 or 4 years later, guys who bet 3 games on this and that, and well, that's another story. So a lot going on here. And we also have a tendency when something like this occurs, story, whatever it might be, to just immediately like vulture, just kill them, like destroy them. And you can have that passion and that opinion, but I do think at times you just take a deep breath and see what actually can come of it. So I was on, here's the note from John Wilner that I'm going to ask you a question and into the chat. John Wilner, the Sorsby situation, not realignment, is Brett Yormark's greatest challenge since he took over the Big 12 in 22-23. The 12 schools in 22-23, the 12 schools were reasonably aligned and committed. In this case, there's a massive internal rift on the most fundamental issue in the sport, which, of course, is the gambling issue. They were. I mean, I'm not so sure if Utah was completely aligned and committed because we know that there are some schools that were kicking and screaming, but eventually they understood the room. So that's John Wilner. Let me ask you this question. The college football playoff runs the football championship, not the NCAA. So the NCAA cannot rule Texas Tech ineligible from being able to do anything. There are sports that they could try to do that. They'll get sued and lose. So I was on with WJOX earlier today with Landrum and Pat Smith, and they asked me about if the college football playoff would then penalize Texas Tech without anything being said. Would they discuss it before they start putting the standings and rankings together? Sure, they will. But what if they tried to maneuver, and will they even discuss that of whether or not you vote Tech or take into consideration if Brendan Sorsby plays, and then they're in the discussion, do you take any of this and will it influence your ballot?
It shouldn't, unless there's something in their bylaws and in their specific instructions that says, hey, you're freely allowed to give your opinions and have them have some sort of weight in your selection process based on off-field things. Go ahead, have at it. If you feel like somebody broke rules and they need to be punished for that, Ole Miss tampering, then dock Ole Miss a seed spot. Okay, if they're allowed to do that, then I suppose if somebody wanted to try to make an example of Tech, then they could take an undefeated or an 11-1 Tech and try to put them at a 7th seed or something like that. But I would highly doubt that in a selection process like that you would be so open-ended as to allow that to happen, because then you could literally just turn around and be like, well, I think it's bullshit that Ole Miss is tampering, so I'm going to dock them. Well, I think it's BS that I've heard that Georgia's tampering, so I'm going to, well, that's what no, I think the College Football Playoff Committee votes on the best teams in the country, period. Bottom line, point blank, the best teams in the country. Is Texas Tech legitimately one of the best teams in the country? Well, you vote them as such. You don't vote them with an asterisk and say, but the whole Brendan Sorsby thing on top of that. So, no, I mean, unless they're specifically allowed to take into account all of this outside stuff and then give their own personal opinion on that and have that be like their own personal detrimental thing in their points system that they put together to put their bracket together or whatever, then okay. But I highly doubt that's the case. I think that's one of those committees that you try to keep the outside noise out as much as possible, and you stick to the printed stat sheets in front of you, and you stick to the results that you saw, and you vote on the best football teams, not on the best football team. Yeah, but remember the Brendan Sorsby thing? So even though they're 12-0, we can't have them as a top 4 seed. Look, you have more justification in saying, and I don't even think this is justification really, but you'd have more justification in saying, well, we saw what happened last year, so I don't know that necessarily we should give them the benefit of the doubt as far as being a number 1 bye seed. That's more something that I would consider appropriate, not totally correct, but more appropriate than saying, yeah, but that Brendan Sorsby thing, I have a strong personal opinion on that. And because even though they've kicked everyone's ass, I don't like that he got to play, so I'm going to dock them for that. I don't think you can do that as a playoff committee. I think that's the type of stuff that needs to be dealt with by the conferences or by the court systems. And then once they speak, you live with that result. And if you want to go on Twitter and complain about it, then that's totally your right. But as far as within that college football playoff room, no, Tech should not be penalized for getting their way with the Brendan Sorsby decision. No, I don't think so.
All right. We discussed it. Pat Smith, friend of the show, guest in the show, said he would probably even leave him off his ballot.
But see, then you're taking it. It's almost like outlaw into your own hands, and you're not judging the best teams in the country anymore.
John McClain could have joined us today a little after 5. He's a Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame, but also a voter. And the NFL strictly says you are not to take anything of anyone's personal life into your vote of whether or not they should be a part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Some, it's different. There's the argument about integrity, et cetera, personal issues, et cetera. Good to hear from John today a little bit at 5 o'clock.
If I was the playoff committee, I would just have that baked into the rules where you don't allow that to take place. And so you avoid that unnecessary drama and that mess that could potentially be created by people deciding to go renegade and just leave Tech off ballots entirely. You say, no, and I don't know, maybe it does say this. Hopefully it does, because it just makes it clear cut and not that much of a question any longer. But you say, we don't take into account off the field stuff. We take into account the on the field. We go by the metrics on the field, and we judge the teams blindly based on what we saw them do throughout the season as best we can. But we don't sit there and go cherry pick, because then you could do that. Then what stops you from just randomly saying, you know what, I think Oregon's tampering in the portal. Are you going to dock them for that? Is that not against the integrity of the game, or is that a part of the game? Like that's where you wade into, I think, murky waters. So you should just firmly establish that that's just not going to be a part of the conversation. Rank Tech where you think they actually should be. I'm sure that no matter what the rules are, there will be people that dock them somewhat. And I think it'll be obvious if you see a top 25 ballot and they're like 5-0 and they're not on a top 25 ballot. Well, then we know somebody's clearly levying that against them. But it should be the College Football Playoff Committee. They should just be picking the best teams and let the rest fall where it may. I know people would love for the answer to be, well, yeah, just leave them off and they get banned. But I don't think that's the job of the College Football Playoff Committee, is to play police officer. I think that it was the job of the NCAA, and unfortunately that got taken out of their hands. And then we got told, well, that's the problem. No, the problem was the NCAA made a decision that was very clear-cut that everybody agreed with except for one school, because they were in the crosshairs. So they did what a lot of other schools do, and they went the court route, and they went around the NCAA and then turned around and said, see, this is the problem with the NCAA. Yeah. What? Like, what?
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. Here's a great point from the Office fan. And the College Football Playoff Committee left out an undefeated Florida State. They can do whatever they want.
No, that's very valid. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, they left out a player based on the team on the field.
Based on a player, yeah.
On the field.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That's a little bit different, but that's a very valid point, in that they took matters into their own hands and they said, hey, without Jordan Travis, Florida State's not as good, so we're going to dock them for that. And it was in a 14 playoff, so a little bit different there. I think that's something that's definitely worth mentioning. I think it's a little bit of a different situation because they were looking at it from the on the field perspective, whereas this is, you're disagreeing with the decision made by a court and a judge specifically. So it's not like Brendan Sorsby tore his ACL in the end of the year and now he's not available for the playoff, and there's only 4 spots, and you're not sure without Brendan Sorsby that Texas Tech's one of the 4 best teams, so you decide to leave them out. It's not quite apples to apples, but thank you for mentioning that, because, yeah, in that instance, they did, I guess, sort of decide to go off of the stat sheets and off of the eye test and said, hey, here's this wild card, and they dealt with it in that way. So, again, I don't know what the playoff bylaws say and if there's anything specifically addressing this. I imagine there might be now in time for next year. But, yeah, I think, like I said, worth mentioning. Glad that you did. And it's not quite the same thing, but interested to see how the playoff committee does, in fact, address this, because I think they're going to have to at some point.
The NCAA filed their appeal yesterday evening, as expected, in the notice in the ruling of Brendan Sorsby. We'll see what happens with that, there's the argument about with the judge and what he did. February is when there would be an appeal. The NCAA is going to ask for that to be expedited in certain ways, whether they do that or not. I've read a lot of people, and I'm not a legal mind, but many people that said even if they got it like in Nuke Drive, it will take 4 months or so for anything to occur when it comes to any kind of an appeal, if in fact it's granted.
No, outside of just a complete unforeseen Hail Mary, Brendan Sorsby's playing starting week 3 against Houston on a Friday night in Lubbock, Texas, and almost like a Hollywood script that was written for him to have this big return and a lot of hate watching, I'm assuming. I wonder how much hate watching is baked into the Texas Tech ratings this year and how much people hate them to the point where they just decide the best thing to do is actually to not hate watch them, is just to not watch them at all. Because you just want to wash your hands of it. I think there's probably some of that sentiment. I see that in some ways kind of in the conversations over the last 24 hours of, no, we're not even going to watch you. We're just not like, we're not going to watch and root for your demise. We're just not going to F with you, basically. And I think you saw that message basically said by Nebraska and Georgia yesterday of we're just not going to play you guys.
I want to get to that in a minute, but you're right about them not wanting to schedule Tech and putting out a memo and all of that. Yeah, I saw that.
So I think I saw kind of that opinion from some fans of, I'm not even going to mess with Texas Tech if you're on, not watching you, that kind of a thing. Does that 2 people on Twitter affect the TV rating overall? I don't know, but I think there will be a mixture of people who are very curious and are watching to watch them lose, which you see examples of. Like LSU will be a team like that for different reasons this year that people watch to watch lose, but also has a huge fan base. I think Texas Tech certainly fits into that mold, but I think there will also be a lot of people that just kind of turn their head when they're on TV and don't want to give them the time of day. And I don't know what all that amounts to for Texas Tech this year, other than I expect them to be a very good team once again. I actually just did my video on my season prediction for them, and I'm very optimistic about what they've got on the gridiron. But I do think that all this off the field stuff does kind of taint it a little bit for some fans, for sure.
Let's go to the Georgia-Nebraska. I don't know what you want to call this or not, but this is from the Georgia AD, John Brooks. Coaches and staff, based on recent developments, Georgia athletics will not schedule future contests against Texas Tech until further notice. Please, that's from Nebraska. Important information, that's from Troy Dannon or from the athletic department. All I wanted to reach out to let you know we will not schedule any contest for Texas Tech in any sport. If you currently have a future contest already scheduled, please connect with Troy Dannon, the AD, immediately. Georgia and John Brooks, the AD, mentioned that they would want to not schedule any more games. If you have any contests currently scheduled, this is from a different graphic, against Texas Tech or actively engaged in scheduling discussions with Texas Tech, please notify your sport administrator as soon as possible so we can evaluate the situation and determine the next steps. That's Georgia, and that's Nebraska. All right. There are not many games that the Big 12 is playing against the Big 10 and or the SEC. You can do that. That's fine. I don't know if I need Georgia to be on some kind of a higher pedestal about how to run an athletic department. And he's great. He's a hell of a deal. Georgia's fantastic. But I don't know if they're the ones that need to be telling me or anyone how to run an athletic department, because they have some of their own issues along with what Tech has or anyone else has.
Yeah, this was very notable when this first started coming out at the end of the show. I mean, for big ADs at big schools and those conferences to come out and propose a boycott of sorts, I mean, that could be very damaging if others follow suit and you punish Texas Tech because you feel they didn't get punished enough or punished the way they should have been. You group up and decide to punish them by just refusing to schedule them. Now, I think that can get really messy. How are you going to prevent Georgia from playing Texas Tech in a preseason volleyball tournament where there's 32 teams in a bracket or something along those lines? Like if you're at some preseason basketball tournament and Nebraska and Tech are on the same side of the bracket, is Nebraska going to forfeit that game? Like, I don't think they fully thought out.
I think in a tournament position, you can't. You can't control.
Okay, well, then you're not doing exactly what you said you're going to do. But so I think that was one of the first things that came to mind was like, are you sure you're not just going to run into each other? But maybe they don't run into those two teams all that often. I don't know. I'm just saying, like golf, a lot of teams are involved in the same events. Maybe you're not playing them head to head, but you're still going to be crossing paths in the non-football sports especially. But in football, you can freeze them out. But was Georgia playing them anyways? No. Was Nebraska playing anybody in the Big 12, much less Texas Tech? No. So, I don't think that was really a shock to the schedule by any means. I do think it could get really interesting if Notre Dame follows suit and says, you know what? I know we were just talking with you guys like a week ago, and there was teasers out there. There was going to be an announcement coming soon, or USC or whoever. But you know what? After this, we're done. We're not going to play you either. And then you find yourself in a situation where you are frozen out, and that could be damaging. And that could then lead to you being viewed as having a very weak strength of schedule. Even though you can profess how hard you tried to schedule, people just won't play us. But that's how they've gone about trying to unofficially punish you. So if enough teams were to jump on board with that, it would need to be quite a few because, again, these two alone don't affect anything. They're just posturing, and they're, yes, very much throwing stones in glass houses in the case of Georgia, trying to act like they are morally superior in any type of way. That's not lost on me in the slightest. So I thought for them to speak up when they have trouble controlling their guys speeding every few months and all of that, like I don't feel like they needed to jump out and act like they're better than everybody else. But if they got enough teams to play along and all of a sudden the majority of the Big Ten or the SEC are not scheduling you, then that leaves you with very few options. And then God forbid the ACC were to follow suit. And then you're just playing Oregon State and Washington State every year. God forbid they say no. And what are you doing? You're playing. Now, I don't know if it would get that far where everybody's on board with doing that because, again, glass houses, and you never know when it's your turn.
Oh, yeah, that's my whole point.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of saber rattling. I think there's some that legitimately are angry, pissed, frustrated, whatever. Okay. Last time Texas Tech played Georgia, in basketball, never.
Right. Yeah.
Baseball, never. Volleyball, played 7 times overall. Last time they played was 4 years ago. Women's basketball, twice. The last time in 21. Softball, 3 times. The last time they played was 2020. Soccer, 2015. And in football, a massive series that hasn't been played since 1996.
Yeah, so this doesn't affect them. It was definitely Georgia just trying to come out and put their face out there as the moral police, and people who know and are smart enough saw through that and understood it was just posturing on the part of Georgia, but did lead to a lot of interactions with Tech fans and SEC fans and Georgia fans and all of that, and then ultimately Nebraska as well, which same thing with them, just posturing as much as anything else. But if they were to have more schools decide to posture alongside them, you could cause some damage to Texas Tech. I think
it's almost like an embargo, like an oil embargo, or financially the institutions that they take over your accounts, whatever. Yeah,
and it could work.
And I got to give Dennis, I think he and I were actually looking and discussing the same thing, but in different views. I understand what Baylor went through because we covered it, but I was talking about games forfeited, et cetera, banning this or banning that. But no, that money hurt. That hurt. And no, you can do that. There's no question about it.
Fine them?
Huh?
What are you talking about? Fining them?
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that's what they do. Like,
that's really all they could do.
I don't know.
Was to Baylor at the time.
But like, what are you fining Tech for, though? Again, like, that's the question I keep coming back to.
If you as a conference feel as if they are damaging your reputation and whatever the wording is, you can vote and the possibility you withhold some of the television revenue or fine them, whatever you want. But is that really going to make a difference? And do you really want to do that? Are you wanting to hurt somebody that is actually perhaps the best logo you right now have in the conference?
Well, I don't think you give them a pass just because they're your best potential logo. I don't think you say, well, gosh, they're our best hope for.
Yeah, you're still going to get the viewers for watching Tech. You're right.
I mean, I don't think you go, well, if we don't have Tech, we can't make the college football playoffs, so we better give them a free pass. Like, you can't do that.
That's not what I said. I know what you're saying. That's not what I meant by that.
And I'm not talking about what you're saying. I'm giving a different example. I'm saying you can't do that. So that doesn't make any sense. And And I think that, a fine could perhaps occur. That's about the extent of what you could do. But then what prevents Tech from then having sour grapes? And now this thing's further fractured. And now they are us against the world within our own conference. And then the Big 12 is right back where it was a few years ago, where now there's unhappy campers and there's split sides. And I think it's just a really delicate balance you're going to have to strike if you're Brett Yormark on how to handle this. And so to the question earlier is, this is one of the big challenges he's faced. I think realignment was a much bigger challenge. That was life or death of the conference. This isn't the life or death of the conference, no matter what happened with Texas Tech. It's just not. It's not comparable in that way. I understand we want to make big, dramatic comparisons, but it's not as dire as realignment was, when you literally don't know if you're going to exist in a few months. But it could cause some fractures.
John was talking more about the tight-knit togetherness of the conference, more than I think whether or not it would throw the conference into hell. That's what he was talking about. Yeah,
and that's what I was saying, is it could create some fractures that you didn't have that now you once again have. So that's what I was also getting to, was that, you then suddenly have that problem on your hands. So it is a delicate balance you're going to need to strike if you're Brett Yormark. And it's also not very clear cut in, well, they broke this golden rule. No, they got around what was thought to be this golden outcome that is never going to be broken. You bet, you lose. And instead, you're dealing with a scenario that nobody's ever had to deal with. And you're dealing with it within your own league and trying to satisfy everybody. And so, it's a really tough situation that he finds himself in. And it'll be fascinating to see how he walks that tightrope and tries to keep everybody happy and everybody on the same page. And also, keep the league moving forward. But you could make a misstep and cause a lot further damage and further cracks, and that could lead to some negative things for the league moving forward. So that's part of why you get paid the big bucks, is to figure those things out. And I'll say this, as far as conferences go, I think that any hopes or dreams that you are joining the Big Ten or the SEC anytime soon are completely out the window for the foreseeable future, based on the Georgia and Nebraska responses and based on just kind of the responses from around the country. I think that Cody Campbell has the best intent for Texas Tech, first and foremost, of course, and you should expect nothing less there, but also for college football. I do think ultimately he does, but his version of college football is very much in line with what's best for Texas Tech still, right? Of course. I think his voice has been valuable at times. I think having his perspective in probably certain conversations has been good and valuable outside of just the normal athletic director or the normal head coach or politician, or whoever. I think with the way they played this and reacted to it, they did a lot of real damage to their brand. I really do believe that. I think just the perception of the saving college sports piece, I think there's little to nobody that believes you when you want to talk about that now. I think when it comes to Tech and being on this ascending plane where everything's going so great, I think the wins are going to continue. I think the financial success is going to continue. I think the championships are going to continue. But I think this idea of putting yourself in a different bracket of respect now, I think you really took a big step back with this whole deal.
I do know this. I know a handful of Texas Tech alums, fans, whatever, that are sad, pretty upset, because like I said earlier, this was supposed to be a time when you enjoyed the success.
Exactly.
And you aren't now. No matter what, you may want to go us against the world. I get that. But you aren't now. You're exactly right. This is something that some of them are like, shit, we've been waiting for this for so long, and we really can't even enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's the bummer of it all. Really, when you boil it down to the human college football fan element, is that, this should be the golden era. And now it is, at least for right now, somewhat marred, just the conversation. And I do think that if you're the Big Ten, okay, now I'm not trying to get into the weeds of realignment here and Texas Tech's AAU status or their pursuit of that and how that could want. I'm not trying to get into all that talk. I'm just saying in general, though, if you are the Big Ten or the SEC, as low as the odds may or may not have been for Tech to ever enter, I'm of the opinion the SEC is never granting them a ride, ever. Not with Texas and Texas A&M and Oklahoma. I just don't believe that. The Big Ten, I will give you like a 0.001% chance of that happening because they want the Texas market. Again, I'm not trying to get into the weeds, and maybe I'd have a higher percentage, but that's not the point of this entire thing. Whatever your percentage may have been, whatever your chance may have been, whether it was realistic or not, I think those percentages have been cut at the knees because you see the Nebraska athletic director, you see the Georgia athletic director, you see Cody Campbell going back at these guys, you see Cody Campbell fighting on Twitter with Georgia athletic director. You mean to tell me Greg Sankey and company will be like, let's get this crazy-ass oil tycoon in here to have him tell us how to run this sport, have him tell us how we can enforce our rules, have him tell us what they're going to do.
Sankey doesn't really enjoy talking about or agree with Cody Campbell on very much at all anyway already. But before this,
even if he did, though, like that's what I'm talking about as far as the damage I think you've done is nobody's going to be sitting there no matter how successful you are, no matter how much money you have going, man, let's get this craziness in here now. Let's have Cody Campbell dictating to us how we're going to run our league and telling us, well, this, that, and the other, and West Texas runs or it all runs through West Texas. Like that's where I think they've erred in the last 24 hours. And they being him and maybe just kind of limited to that scope of Red Raider fans who have sort of not dug in their heels on the decision or anything like that, but just have kind of taken this defensive posture and lashed back out. It doesn't matter if it's Red Raider 42 fan doing that because that's fans. And there's thousands of them, millions of them from every walk of life that's chimed in on this in the last 24 hours. But I think when it's a figurehead of the university that's popping off like a guy on Twitter anonymously would pop off, that's a different story. I think that was a really bad look for them in the end result for this. And I do think it might have caused some damage that is perhaps lasting, perhaps not. But in the immediate future, there's definitely some damage done with some of the reaction, I think specifically revolving around the leadership there.
Yeah, there's a possibility. And again, as I said, from Tech fans, they are – the word's sad, I don't want to, but this is tying them up in knots because it's a time when they should be enjoying it. And now all of a sudden, because of this, they're not able to do that. So we'll see. I do know this. Nicole Auerbach put into better words what I tried to say yesterday, and maybe I just confused everybody. It's an image that we have, Rez, from Nicole Auerbach. It's an argument as far as the argument that Jeffrey Kessler used for Brendan Sorsby that actually makes a mockery of mental health concerns and anxiety disorders. It treats mental health as a get-out-of-jail-free card instead of something to be taken seriously with therapy time, perhaps even medication. It opens the door for another football player who breaks rules to avoid the consequences of his own actions by saying he would prefer not to deal with the punishment. It would harm his mental health. It would make him happiest if he could just go back to doing whatever he wants. That's what I was saying yesterday, and I think eventually I got that out. But, yeah, that's Jeffrey Kessler being an incredible lawyer, like his tactics or not. That was the seed that was planted that in the end may have been the reason why the judge decided that Sorsby would be able to play.
I think it's really unfortunate we're not going to hear from the judge on why they came to that conclusion. I've seen enough back and forth. I would need to rewatch like the entire thing to really get to what was actually said here and what, but tried to have kind of some summaries I combed through and sort of paraphrasing and all that. And while I could see where maybe there was an angle for them to slide in, I think this judge must have just been completely clueless to the history of college sports. Like that's the only thing that makes sense here. Or they just have the most immense amount of sympathy for the guy who put himself in this position and did the wrong thing and made the wrong choices. And now you've decided to give him absolutely no repercussions other than missing 2 games they don't even need him for. And that ruling by that judge is just, it's bizarre and leads me to believe that they just have no understanding whatsoever of the sanctity of feeling like guys aren't betting on games, especially ones that they're on the team for. And that's the only because the decision doesn't make any sense otherwise, unless you do just sympathize so much with the mental health route. And that is a very slippery slope. Now, Nicole, she doesn't know that he doesn't have mental health issues. He very well may, but it is something that we saw others try to use this offseason. And some it worked. Some it didn't. And it's hard to say. And then you can just go hire a life coach or a mental health coach and they say, no, yeah, he has anxiety. And if he doesn't play, then he's going to have a full panic attack and this, that, or the other. Yeah, I think that's a really weird stake to put in the ground and kind of rally around his mental health because it can be so abused. But it also can be valid. And that's the tricky part is you don't really know. And I think in the case of Brendan Sorsby, I just don't buy that if your problem was this bad and you needed the treatment, that if it's so important to everybody around you that you're okay, why does it have to be that you're playing football? Why can't you have all of this support and still live your life, but you just can't play college football?
Because that was the argument, and that was what Jeffrey Kessler planted inside the judge's head.
Well, and the judge is a moron.
Well, I mean, we can all agree on that. Yeah. I don't know if he's taking enough heat. I try to respect people that are in law, but legal, but he's not really taking a lot of heat because all of it's directed at Texas Tech and Brendan Sorsby.
Yeah, if he doesn't deal drugs, then his mental health will be at risk. Or if he doesn't do this,
that's what I was trying to say yesterday with you guys. But this is one that you're using this as the cop out. This is the excuse. This is the reason that he should be able to play it. I think it's crap.
I mean, I do too. I think that it would be great to hear from the judge, like I said, but we're not going to ever hear from that judge.
You're not going to hear from NFL officials after a game. You're not going to hear from a judge.
They're insulated and protected, and they can just make their decisions and move on. And so that's what this judge has done. I think that maybe they've learned in the last 24 hours just how much damage they did. Maybe it was worth it for them in the long run for one reason or another. We'll never know. But I think it's a decision that's definitely been very unique in how it's all worked out. We need to take a break. Rapid fire with a lot of great discussion from you in the chat and from hopefully us to kind of set things up. Shahan Jararaja, CBS Sports, is next. QC Kinetics, locations in both Dallas and Houston. QC Kinetics taking natural biologics, regenerative medicine from inside your body to heal your aches and pains, to help your joints feel better. Maybe it's as simple as tennis elbow. Maybe your knee has been injured, or maybe your back is all gristly and screwed up, or it's your hip because of your back, and you haven't been able to kick the pain. You haven't been able to get rid of the pain. Steroid injections have just kicked the can down the road, but they're not getting rid of the pain. That's the difference with what I have discovered since my first treatment back in September at the location on 75 in Dallas. QC Kinetics, no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Taking your natural regenerative body fluids and what you have, stem cells, bone marrow, plasma, and platelets out of your body, spinning it and taking it and putting it back in your body. For me, it's been my back lower waist, and it's been around my hip, and I've done things now in the last several months that I didn't do for years. So how about you? Are you tired of waking up in the same pain as there, and it never seems to go away? Are you tired of your arms hurting from your elbows or your shoulders, your ankles, and maybe even your wrist, the ankles in your legs? QC Kinetics, it's a great story, game-changing regenerative treatments done at the office. I have been there, 4 different treatments, including one when they took bone marrow and stem cells. And after that one, man, did I feel a lot better. And it is worth it. Get rid of the pain. Don't kick the can down the road. Here are the numbers from Dallas and Houston locations. 972-972-8610. 713-913-5285. Live the good life again with QCkinetics.com.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
The reason that their service is outstanding because the people they have working, behind the desk and the folks working out in the garage, taking care of business. And they give you a date, they give you a time, and they're spot on, and they're professional, they take care of it, and they answer all your questions, and they're fun to work with.
Like Alan Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Alan Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Bold,
are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
We will get to Shahan Jeyarajah. In fact, we'll put him up on the screen. Craig, you had a note from Brandon Marcello. We can lead that into our segment with the young man from CBS Sports.
Yes, this just from over the last hour. Brendan Marcello saying every Big 12 AD but Texas Tech's Kirby Hocutt believes Brennan Sorsby shouldn't play. That was communicated today on the call. There are plenty of ideas to convince pressure Tech to cut Sorsby loose, but ADs believe it's common sense. He bet on his sport. Tech shouldn't play him. And then Brendan kind of gets into kind of the ins and outs of it all. The reverberations could be immense if he plays, and then, proposes questions on what all this could look like. So Shahan Jeyarajah, CBS Sports, joins us. And Shahan, there's a lot to unpack from the last 24 hours, man. I guess let's start with your thoughts when you saw the, news that first appeared that Sorsby was getting this injunction, and what you've made of just the fallout of it ever since.
Yeah, it was a surprise. I won't lie. Obviously, you can't be too surprised by anything in college athletics right now, but this felt about as open and shut a case as you could possibly have. He gambled on games. He gambled on games that he was a member of the roster for, and yet, obviously, at the end of it all, he was cleared. So this certainly has been something that I think has reverberated in ways that even I didn't necessarily expect. Like, this has reached levels of outrage and levels of the sport that even I'm a little surprised by. But ultimately, again, this is kind of the deal, right? Is that the NCAA has been susceptible to legal challenges. And at least for the moment, Brendan Sorsby's one was successful.
So, Shahan, we've been talking a lot, just kind of going over all the things, Georgia's AD, Nebraska's AD. Like, if they all came together and decided not to schedule Texas Tech, that could be damaging. Like, there's maybe some lasting damage just in general that's been done here. But as far as the Big 12, let's just start there. Meeting today, Gene Taylor was on the record and quotes galore yesterday. What do you think they can do? What is feasible here? What do you think they should do? What do you think is likely to come from, if anything, the Big 12 getting together and obviously being very pissed about this decision, but also dealing with one of their own here?
No, and that is the complication. I was really curious to hear what Brett Yormark would say publicly whenever this decision came out. And he really did try to toe the line a little bit in a way that was different, certainly, than the other conference commissioners. But again, there is real frustration and anger in that room, right? There's a lot of people looking around saying this is outside of the spirit of sports. This is, obviously trying to undercut our rules and regulations. I mean, in many ways, this is a shot right in the heart of NCAA enforcement. If they can't enforce this one extremely black and white rule, what frankly can they enforce at this point? So I do think that there's going to be a lot of conversation in the Big 12. I mean, again, the reality is like the Big 12 does have the ability to sanction Texas Tech in some ways. The question is, one, is that a door that they want to open, and with all the complications that could come with it as well? And two, I mean, what would reasonable punishment look like? Because ultimately, again, the NCAA believes that he should be suspended permanently, that his college career should be over after gambling on his own games. Would any punishment that the Big 12 even tries to levy be potentially as, would it live up to that essentially? So a lot to consider, a lot of legal ramifications to consider, a lot of collegial ramifications to consider. And so really, again, like I don't think we're going to get answers in the next couple of days.
We thought when the Sorsby decision came down, it'd be like, all right, the story, we'll just talk about the season. And now it's like, this is way bigger than we thought it was going to be.
If in fact one of these two, and I mean one would be Texas Tech University Athletics, or Brendan Sorsby would say, I can't do this any longer because of the shrapnel, which of the two do you think would buckle?
Yeah, I do think that there's a very legitimate chance that it would be Sorsby himself, right? Because I think that Texas Tech, I mean, there's a couple dynamics with them, right? One is, I mean, they have very sort of vocally supported him through this whole process, for better or worse. I mean, whether you think that's the right decision or not, they have done it. And I think that for them, like, again, that they are a place, they are a culture, they are a school that does support their own. You look at even, for example, Texas Tech President Lawrence Skuvanek going on the record and putting out a long statement in support of Sorsby and saying that they believe that he should be ruled eligible for the 2026 season. So I do think that Texas Tech is probably going to continue to back him. The question, I think, if you're Brendan Sorsby, right, is yes, obviously, I mean, you want to play major college football. You want to play this upcoming season. You're going to get compensated very highly for the chance to do that. But like, one, I mean, he has a diagnosed gambling disorder and also an anxiety disorder. At what point do you have to start thinking about what all of this attention and pressure and scrutiny means for you, the person? And two, I think that you also, at a certain point, start to think, when am I being made bigger than the athletic department? Again, Nebraska and Georgia have explicitly said, like, we don't want to schedule you guys in volleyball. We don't want to schedule you guys in softball because of what's happening here on the football side of things. So, again, that's a lot of pressure for a 22-year-old to deal with. And I'll be curious if he kind of decides maybe it isn't the right thing for me to still be here.
Shahan, I wonder about just kind of the reactions we've seen from like Cody Campbell, and he lashes back out at the Georgia AD and talks about all the driving arrests, and it's on the one hand he's like trying to save college sports, but then he's also going out and saying, "Hey, we're celebrating this today, and we're just playing by the rules." It's all, I don't know, man. It leads you to a very confusing place on him, doesn't it? And I don't know quite how to even view it almost in some ways, because I do think his heart's in the right place, but I also know his heart and his head are first and foremost with Texas Tech. And it's hard to be the leader of the new era of college football if you're trying to have your cake and also eat it too, if that makes sense.
No, totally. And I think that, what's interesting about Cody Campbell in this moment, and again, like, obviously I had my piece last year where I wrote about Texas Tech and Cody Campbell. I think that also Dan Murphy over at ESPN had a really good piece that really delved into the Cody Campbell of it all as well. And like, I think that you kind of feel these two conflicted parts of him almost coming to the forefront, right? Because I want to be clear, like, obviously I'm one guy, whatever, but like, I really do believe that Cody Campbell thinks I'm the guy who is uniquely suited to save college football. Like, I think that he does believe that. I think he is very legitimate, and I think that, I can fix the system. I think that I can push this through Congress, whatever. So I do think that is real, but also he also obviously wants to put Texas Tech in the best position that he possibly can. And I think that these two things, like you said, are right now kind of at odds with each other, because Again, he even pointed out, the other day on social media, like there is explicit rule in the bill that's been proposed by Maria Cantwell and Ted Cruz that would have essentially prevented Brendan Sorsby from being able to appeal a decision like this, because it would have given that sort of ability to the NCAA to ban him from college athletics. So like you said, I mean, you're almost being pulled in multiple different directions. The funny thing about it is, like, Cody Campbell is obviously not one who certainly has ever been shy to speak out publicly. His statement yesterday on it was pretty even keeled. I think that he understands, man, at what point am I hurting my ultimate goal, which I do think is trying to reform college football by trying to do this thing that helps my alma mater as well. And frankly, I don't know that there's an easy way for him to square both.
He wrote an op-ed. I think it was I'm not sure if it was at USA Today or wherever it was, but he wrote an op-ed. There was a time even a month or 2 or 4 ago where he disappeared for a while. He kind of went off the grid and then he came back on. I think that he might need to go off the grid again. And I have respect for him. There are things I don't agree with him, but I think it might be good for him to go off the grid.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think that's something that certainly he's going to have to weigh. And that's also something that I think that the sponsors of this congressional bill are going to have to weigh is, yes, it is very important that he has a direct line to the president, that he has a lot of power, that he has a lot of influence. But also, if he's just one character in this story, does it actually hurt your case at a certain point? I think that that's something that certainly needs to be weighed. But again, it's also a critical moment where this bill is coming to the forefront, where, again, a lot of people have kind of said that this Cantwell-Cruz bill is probably the most realistic bill and maybe the last chance at a bill that college athletics will have. And I actually think that after the Sorsby decision, there's going to be, I think, even more momentum to try to get federal involvement in college athletics. So again, like I kind of go back to, it's a rock and a hard place right now, but I agree. I think that certainly, I think that probably arguing with burner accounts on social media was not necessarily the best way to go about things.
Yeah, I think there could be some long-lasting damage. Like if your hope was to eventually catapult to a bigger league one day or to use your money and your success, I think that took a step backwards the last 24 hours. Just kind of the reaction and the fighting, whether it's anonymous burners or it's the Georgia AD or whatever. I just feel like on the one hand, it's admirable you're defending your guy, but I think that you might have actually hurt yourself in some ways with how much you dug in for your guy. And I don't know that it was all necessarily worth it in the end, if that makes sense.
No, I totally agree. And, one sort of misconception that I want to dispel is, obviously, like you said, a lot's been pointed to George, you didn't have any problems with the arrests. And, there's been all these other bad things happening in college athletics. Something I really want to emphasize with sports gambling, and especially gambling on your own games, is that the entire business model centers on integrity of competition, right? That's the reason that this is a big deal. It's not that, sports gambling is the most evil thing that anybody can do. It's that this is the thing that people are paid to do. This is the thing that we broadcast. An entire multi-billion-dollar industry rests on these games, being random and having meaning, right? So that's the reason why this is such a big deal. Again, I understand sort of the natural inclination to point to other bad things that have happened in the sport, but that's why this remains such a hot topic. And that's why for so many, this remains a bright red line.
Yeah, I think that's a good, because I've seen a lot of that too. Like, what about Penn State? What about Baylor? What about, it's like, that's not apples to apples.
Very bad. Let's be clear. But, but also it's just not the conversation that we're having.
Right. Exactly. So what do you tell a Texas Tech fan? And we've got many that are watching this show in the chat that were just gung-ho about this year, super excited. Everything's better than it's ever been. The upward trajectory, they can be better than last year. And now there's just all this, Shahan. I know you're not everybody's counselor, but just kind of pouring a little bit out for all the Texas Tech fans that are just trying to enjoy this ride. And now this ride's taking an unexpected turn.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think actually is a little unfortunate if you're a Texas Tech fan, is that Texas Tech was, in my opinion, the favorite to win the league before Brendan Sorsby came back, right? And now I think that this season is always going to have a little bit of muddiness to it. Now, again, maybe maybe Brendan Sorsby doesn't end up playing. Maybe they reach a resolution. Maybe there's a punishment that more seems fit the crime. But like ultimately, like I just don't think that this season is going to leave as good a taste in people's mouths as they would like, and as frankly as they deserve with the roster that they've put together. It's always complicated as a sports fan and as a college sports fan to have to deal with, you know, the two sides of obviously loving your school, supporting your school, being excited about their success, but also having to deal with all of this blowback, right? And this is the thing, again, I go back to it for Texas Tech and for Brendan Sorsby. I think that you have to reach a question of like, is this worth it? Because I mean, again, like a couple of years ago, certainly Michigan went through a version of this and they went on to win the national title. And if you win, right, like people kind of forget a little bit, but it's just, again, this season is going to be different than last season because this isn't going to be the build up, the excitement, the proving your legitimacy. There's going to be this a little bit of a black cloud. And again, for Texas Tech fans, I just think that kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's exactly how they have to feel. It's kind of like, man, this is when we're supposed to be enjoying all the fruits of the labor and NIL, whatever else, transfer portal, good coaches. And then all of a sudden it's got to be, I wonder how many are sick to their stomach, not to overreach, but just sick to their stomach because they are right now the most hated college football program in America.
Yeah. And again, like, it's one thing. Actually, Mike Craven over at Dave Campbell's Sex Football made a really good point. Like last year, they were the outlaws. We're going and messing everything up and showing what we can do and making a name for ourselves. And this year, they're more of a villain, right? And there is a difference between the two things. It's one thing to be a renegade. It's another thing to be, per se, in the wrong, right? And so I think that that's a balance that certainly Texas Tech fans are going to have to kind of work through a little bit. And look, again, like, the other part of it too is if you're a fan and you show up to games on Saturdays, like just, you know, you should obviously root for your team. You should obviously enjoy this team. But, you know, again, it's just part of that process is the validation that comes with it, especially nationally. Again, you know, obviously, as you guys know, you know, I was at Baylor in 2013 and 14 and getting to be on that national stage and be talked about was a really cool experience as a student down there. And that's meant to be part of it. That's, I think, something that's going to be lost just a little bit. And again, you know, for their sake, I hope that there's sort of a resolution that makes sense, that you know, people can kind of move past this. But it's just hard to see what that is if Brendan Sorsby's on the roster.
All right. So what do you think about Minnesota's secondary this year? No,
let me ask you. You have another
question? Go ahead.
Brought this up earlier from a segment I was on earlier today about the College Football Playoff Committee. Is it possible for them to look at the teams and not use this story to downgrade or overlook or not even rank Texas Tech?
Yeah, so here's the thing, right, is that this was caused by a court injunction. And so I think that certainly if the College Football Playoff Committee were to refuse to rank them, they would potentially open themselves up to a legal challenge as well. And again, so is that a liability that they would want to take on? I think the answer is no, right? Now, again, you know, if you're in the room and you're like, well, you know, we should take this under consideration, we should take this into account, like, obviously we can't necessarily litigate that, but I do think that more likely than not, the College Football Playoff Committee will treat Texas Tech, you know, as a normal team. Now, I think what'll be a little more interesting will be kind of the AP poll, because I do think that more AP poll voters will be potentially more aggressive about being like, I'm downgrading them, I'm leaving them off my ballot. And, you know, because again, like Texas Tech's probably not going to sue the, you know, the Florida beat writer or whatever, right? Like that's probably not realistically what's going to happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are punished a little bit in that regard. But I think that when it comes to actual administration of the playoff, it would just open up a whole host of problems if they were to try to purposefully leave them out or downgrade them, especially.
I think about the Baseball Hall of Fame voters and sometimes how they work, and they hold a grudge. Where pro football writers and voters usually say it's about the player, no matter what we know about him or whatever. So that it has to get into the mind of a voter. It does. You're right. The Associated Press or otherwise. Anything else, Craig? Shahan, wow, yet another interesting week in college football. We'll see how this goes and what, if anything, comes from any of the upcoming meetings involving the Big 12 governors and whoever else.
It'll be interesting to see where we are, Shahan, at media days, like what occurs in the next month in the fallout of this, and then what we're talking about come early July up in the Dallas area. Be very interesting.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my wife. It's going to be a quiet June, but I guess it never is.
Yeah,
man. I'm telling you, like, I really did think too of, hey, we're just going to get this decision, and we're going to say, all right, well, Sorsby's playing, and then that's it. I just never. I considered that it wasn't 100% that it was going to go the way everybody thought. I held out that there's like it's 98% to 2%, right? I just really didn't think the 2% was going to happen, much less turn into an even bigger ordeal than it already was. But thanks, man, for your time as always.
Yeah,
of course.
Yep.
I was prepping my Will Hammond story, and I guess I can say that for next year.
Yeah.
No, hold on to it. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. That's true.
Shahan Jararajan, most Tuesdays at 4 o'clock with us on the Smoke Show in 365 Sports. And in just a moment, we're going to take a dive into the College Baseball World Series to get a break from a lot of this, which we know obviously is on your mind too.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be good to talk about a few other things as well, but this is just such an interesting story. Like it is because of all the branches that have now grown in the last 24 hours. Like, before, when we were talking about this story, it was just, all right, is the court going to make the logical decision, or are they going to make a decision that has never been made before and could really cause an uproar? And a judge decided to make that decision. And as low percentage of a chance as that was, I guess that would have made you some money on one of the prediction sites or something like that. But it just now has led to this completely different conversation about, we're on the one hand talking about how does the Big 12 respond to this? What do they do, if anything, to Texas Tech? We've got Brandon Marcello talking about how all the ADs are wanting Brendan Sorsby gone. And there is a chance that, yeah, in theory, he could decide to step away himself. I'm sure it would help if Tech said, we'll just pay the full amount. Just take it and go. And that would probably be the cleanest way to do that. That way he gets the money and he can just leave and go prepare for the NFL, and they can go on about their business.
You think that has anything to do with any kind of
the money?
Yeah, that if we were to go against him, a judge has ruled he can play, but we have committed the $4.5, $5 million, 3.9, whatever it is, and we just don't want to blow that money.
I think if you're wanting me to make a decision that I don't really want to make, if you tell me I'll get $4.5 million versus getting nothing for it, then yeah, I'll take the $4.5 million and probably make that decision and then go play pro football. And I don't guarantee that that's what Brendan Sorsby would do, but I do think that would make it a lot easier of a choice than saying you're not getting anything, and even though you're eligible, we're not going to play you, because then you fracture that relationship. You just have that conversation of like, dude, this isn't sustainable. But there's the question about that now. There's the question about what the Big 12 does. There's the question about the Nebraskas and the Georgias of the world and whether this is going to be a freeze out that grows and goes to other schools. And then how does that affect other sports at Texas Tech and so on and so forth? So yeah, it's a web that's much bigger than it was just a day ago.
It's not like just walking through a clear closet a clear door. It has got vines and spider webs and different angles and whatever else, tentacles around this story. When we come back, we'll check in on West Virginia. What a great story it's been for them in the College Baseball World Series. And a former Baylor pitcher, is now their radio color analyst. And we'll hear from him as the Mountaineers head to Omaha very soon. And this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340, and east of 84 in Waco. And how about this? This is from David Gray. Father's Day around the corner. Father's Day at Alan Samuels. Save up to $11,000 off MSRP on a new 2026 Ram 1500 Lone Star. Plus, qualified buyers get 2.9% APR financing for 72 months with approved credit. Also, how about this? Need a vehicle that is pre-owned? That's what you'd rather do than rather buy somebody or something new and on the lot. They've got a great inventory for you. That's the one where I went, Alan Samuels, and bought a pre-owned Ford Explorer back in the summer of 2020, driving it even to this day. Also, looking for a dependable vehicle, you can check out all of the certified pre-owned vehicles that I mentioned because they are there. But Father's Day, $11,000 off MSRP, 2026 Ram 1500 Lone Star, and the possibility for qualified buyers of 2.9% APR financing for 72 months with approved credit. It's Alan Samuels in Waco. Ted Teague, General Manager and CEO. We are back, 365 Sports, the Smoke Show. Craig Smoke will join us here in just a second. We'll have Hall of Fame columnist John McClain today, a little bit after 5 o'clock. Craig's off the radar around the corner, but we are joined by Jake Weghorst, the West Virginia radio color analyst, former Baylor pitcher, as the Mountaineers head to Omaha, Nebraska, my hometown where I was born a long time ago. Jake, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Can you explain what it's like right now in Morgantown, West Virginia?
I appreciate you having me on, and man, what a time to be a West Virginia baseball fan. I mean, it's been a long time coming to get to Omaha as every college baseball player, but really when you have it at a university where you have such passionate fans that just crave winning. And the baseball team is the one to get you to that national level, to try to get you that national title. It is, the fan support has just been incredible, and I can't wait to see how many of these Mountaineers travel all the way to Omaha, Nebraska, to see these guys compete out there.
Go ahead, Craig.
Are Jello shots popular in Morgantown, West Virginia? I was just wondering.
Hey, I know moonshine's popular, but I think the Jello shots are. It's a big popular topic right now. So that Rocco's place, they better watch out for the Mountaineer fans coming in there.
I saw the owner doing a promo about it, and LSU's not there, so somebody has to pick up the slack for the Tigers not being in the World Series, the defending champions. I actually had a few Jello shots in Florida this past week. They're pretty good. Lemon drops and a little bit of whipped cream on top. So enjoy those. Why this team, Jake? Why did it all work for this team?
I think it's really been a long time coming. These guys have been knocking on the door. I've been doing the radio for these guys for the past 4 seasons, and every year it's the third consecutive super regional we've made it to. The first time we've had to host a regional in Morgantown and the super regional. So you have a lot of holdover guys, but the vision's never changed with Coach Sabins. It's his second year at the helm. He was an assistant with Randy Mazie, so each year the recruits have gotten better, but it's been the same vision, that national title. And one thing that I hear, Coach Sabins always say is we need to do things that have never been done before. And it seems like every single year, whether it's attendance records, hosting a regional, win a Big 12 title, most wins in program history. You keep elevating the program, and now we get to go to Omaha. So, but really, these guys can beat you in so many different ways. Starting pitching is really good. You got guys in the bullpen that has depth, but you mix in a little power, really good defense. We led the Big 12 in defense this year. We can run. You got 100+ stolen bases team wise. So it's really, 1 through 9. You never know which way they're going to come at you, just how the game dictates. And I think that's why they're built for the postseason. And we said that, Andrew Caridi and I have said that all year long. This team is built for the long haul because they have so many different ways to beat them. And I'm so glad that it's worked out and they're going to have their chance to go to Omaha, because it's been an extremely long time coming, and it's going to be really fun to watch.
This might be kind of a dumb question, but we talk a lot of Big 12. I was just curious how you think the league itself and kind of what they faced throughout prepared them for where they've ended up now.
We've had to go on the road quite a bit. I feel like being a northern climate, outside of the Big 12, we have to travel quite a bit. So then when you add Arizona State in the mix, BYU, Utah, there's a lot of travel in there that we're already used to. But the quality of teams, even over the past 4 years, up and down the league, it is very difficult. The starting pitching across the board's extremely good. But the league keeps getting better and better, and so do the Mountaineers. So it's been a really fun time, but they're more than prepared. And our team's gotten better every year. We've learned from the past couple of years what the weaknesses may have been of not getting over the hump. And the coaching staff has done a really tremendous job of evaluating the type of players that it takes to get you to Omaha.
Troy is next. 38-30. I saw this notice from Rob Anderson on Twitter. The .559 winning percentage will be the third worst percentage ever by a team entering the tournament. 1950 Bradley, and 63 Texas was 19-15 and went on to win a couple of games. Did not win it, but man, are they red hot! Talk about red hot. What a great story it's been for Troy.
That's the thing. Postseason baseball, you can throw seedings out the window because it's whoever gets hot. You look at Troy, you look at what Oklahoma just did to Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
The Super Regional just absolutely whipped up on those guys up in Lawrence. So it's usually the team who gets the hottest. And, I don't look at the winning percentages or anything. Those guys, I watched them in their Super Regional and their Regional. They can hit, they can pitch, they can defend. Their head coach, Skylar Mead's a young guy, very energetic. He has them rolling. So it's going to be a very, very fun first round there on Friday with those guys. And it doesn't matter if they're Troy or a team out of the SEC, they're going to be ready to go.
So West Virginia, in an atmosphere we discussed with Andrew, by the way, even – as you guys were headed to hosting the Super Regional. What is it like for someone who's attached to the program the way you are? Because I love the Take Me Home Country Roads. We even played it to start a show last week after winning the regionals. What is that like with that crowd at 5,000 plus singing that song?
And it's even better when you sing it after a big win or winning the regional, the Super Regional. So it really, even all the other sports, it brings everybody together. That's the main thing. And everybody's singing it, everybody's happy. But after every game, the team lines up together, arm in arm, everybody's singing, everybody knows the words. But how loud it was just incredible. And to have all the fans throughout the state. And I love that me and Andrew did on the radio, and we've never done before. After that Super Regional win, we turned up the mic on the radio and let it just go live on the radio for the whole song so everybody could hear it, because it's special, man. It's special. It's the first time we've ever won a Super Regional, first time we hosted. So you want to not only celebrate with the players and the staff, but celebrate with those fans, man. They're super passionate about West Virginia sports.
So I know over the years there's been some frustrations, just the geographic location and how you've kind of been on an island and just various things kind of. But it seems like a lot's going right now. And Ren Baker is one heck of an AD. I was just curious on how you felt he's come in and had an impact on the West Virginia faithful and on the athletic department there.
I mean, Ren Baker's a superstar. I mean, as soon as he came in here, the hires he's made, just the success with all the programs, baseball, women's basketball, rifle, both soccer teams are really good. You got Rich Rod coming back, that's going to get the football team going. Ross Hodge, great hire for the men's basketball. I mean, it's just a lot of things going right. But the biggest thing I've noticed about Ren is he's present. I mean, he's there at every game, right there with everybody, arm in arm. But he's made a really nice hire of keeping Steve Sabins on this staff because he's the right guy for the job. I mean, especially how you're talking about the climate and the area and on the island. I mean, you can sit back and complain about it, or you can adapt and get going. And that's what we did. And that's what Steve Sabins have done. And, you got a biomechanics center that's, one of few in the country in college sports that's, Coach Sabins in the fall, I mean, they drove down to North Carolina and South Carolina just to play on dirt outside because the weather was so bad. So they've adapted. It's just a good time for West Virginia athletics right now.
You were at Baylor. You were at Angelina College in Lufkin. You were also at, I think, what was it? Is it New Mexico Junior College as well before that?
2 years at Angelina, then 2 years at Baylor.
Okay, at Baylor. You were a part of a team that followed a Baylor team that went to the College World Series. I hate to bring that up, but I've obviously looked back at what you've done, and you were right there. You went there the year after they went to the College World Series. Have you ever been there at all?
Nope, I've never been to Omaha. I told myself a long time ago that the only way I'm going to go there is if I'm with a team in some capacity. So I never made it as a player, never made it as a coach. But I'm going to get to go in the radio booth, so I'll take it. So I'm just excited because, I coached at West Virginia for 3 years, before Randy Mazie took over in the Big 12, before the new field, before fully funded with scholarships, all that bit. So it is. I'm just as excited as everybody else to go. So it's going to be it's a bucket list place for sure because it's hard to get there. It's hard to get to Omaha, man. It's the past three years. Only North Carolina is the only team in the past 3 years to go twice to Omaha. It's been completely different teams across the board.
That's nuts because of the baseball blue bloods, and some of them are in the bracket. In fact, this coming weekend in the tournament. But I saw that note. 23 of 24 teams are brand new, and North Carolina is the only one who's at least been there more than one time. Yeah. Well, you beat the hell out of Cal Poly, and of course, were red hot. Did you have any idea? A lot of times you don't know. It could be a slugfest, a 1-0 game. Did you have any idea you guys would just steamroll them?
No, I mean, not a clue. I mean, going into it, scouting them and looking at their stats, we knew they could pitch. We knew they could hit. But it's just our guys came out. It's just like Oklahoma at Kansas. I mean, the boys were hitting. We got extremely great starting pitching, especially when you really needed it after going 5 games in the regional. That was really taxing and exhausting, going 3 games with Kentucky and Binghamton and another one with Wake Forest. So it was pleasantly surprised, but I wasn't surprised at the same time after you'd been there 2 times at a super regional and you got to watch another team celebrate. So now you got to do it on your home field and you get the dog pile in front of everybody. So I wasn't shocked at the way it went because there's a lot of holdover guys that have seen that before.
Hey, man, from Lorena, Texas to where you are now, we'll be at the College Baseball World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. Jake, I'm proud of you, and everybody is, and good luck with the Mountaineers and having a chance to fulfill what has already been a dream season and maybe even gets better. Good luck.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. Let's go Mountaineers.
Jake with us on 365 Sports. Wegsworth with us on with the West Virginia radio call. We've had Andrew Caridi and now Jake. We appreciate his time. Weghorst with us on 365 Sports. When we come back, Craig Smokes off the radar. Wow, NBA Finals game last night that we can get to, among more of what is on kind of the outside of what we've talked about most of this day today. The Smoke Show on 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza with Bob Mock owning 5 locations in Waco. Fastest growing pizza brand in America. Go online to marcos.com and find all of the specials they have every single day. And sometimes those pictures make your mouth water, whether it's a medium 3-topping pizza with some special price, or the ones that I like, the Magnifico, whether it's loaded with pepperoni or loaded with Italian sausage or loaded with both of them where you can't even see anything but the product, the protein on top. Salads, wings, and more. Marco's Pizza. Bob Mock started in the pizza business. I was talking to this with my younger brother, Philip. He delivered pizzas for a long time at Domino's. So did I. And that's where Bob started too. And now with Marco's Pizza, fastest growing pizza brand in America, Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
For anyone that's in the car buying mode or looking for a car right now or a truck, I would definitely come by Allen Samuels, get to know the people here like I have, how well I'm taking care of the dealership and how well, service and any kind of warranty issues or those sort of things. Because the way they take care of me, it's made me a Ram driver. I said I don't think they'd want to go anywhere else if they came here.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
It's time for Craig Smokes Off the Radar.
365 Sports, welcome back for some of you. Time for a little Off the Radar. We spent the first half of the show talking about Brendan Sorsby and all of the fallout from that. Got to talk a little West Virginia baseball, and now kind of just spread out and talk about a few other things, although I can already tell you there is a monster lawsuit that's getting ready to unleash itself once again onto the college sports world. And I'll just briefly mention it. And I'm hoping it's not something we dive too deep into for days on end, because Lord knows we don't need to just drown in legalese. But the whole idea of collective bargaining I saw was getting thrown around a lot yesterday because, well, this is how we solve this and this is how we do that. And everybody who's said, yeah, but I don't think that's going to work, has rightfully pointed out, why would the athletes agree to that now? Why would they agree to be collectively bargained? They have every advantage known to man. They can transfer however many times and whenever they want. They can make a lot of money. Now, there is a cap to how much money they can make. That's part of the House settlement, or at least there's supposed to be a cap. Well, now it looks as though a new lawsuit is being prepared to challenge said cap. So get ready for that. And no surprise that that would be a route taken by the athletes and their representation of, yeah, there shouldn't be a cap. It's a free market. We should be able to pay $16 million for Jeremiah Smith if we want to pay him $16 million. So just letting you know that's swirling out there. And, yeah, let's get off the radar before we lose our minds on another college football legal case or college sports legal case. Did you happen to watch, before we get into the events most recently, we'll work our way backwards, did you happen to watch the Belmont Stakes?
I actually, hello. I actually did. And I was excited because the Kentucky Derby winner was in it. And of course, it's different. The Triple Crown is not the same because there is the concern about the safety of racing 3 times in 5 weeks. But yeah, it came from behind again and won again.
Yeah, it being Golden Tempo, the winner of 2 out of 3 legs of the Triple Crown, as it skipped out on the middle race due to just health issues and trying to do what was best for the horse. Had a lot of people wondering why it didn't run in the second race. And, well, it didn't run because they wanted to protect the horse, and it looked like it worked out well as Golden Tempo wins the 3rd leg of the Triple Crown, 158th running. So now a Kentucky Derby and Belmont Stakes winner. But yeah, after I saw the Triple Crown happen a couple times, I just found, and somebody told me this was going to happen. They're like, once you see it, you're not going to care that much about it anymore. And I know there's a lot of people rallying around Golden Tempo, but I did definitely feel that. And maybe they planted that seed in my head and it grew, and I should have trimmed that seed and not allowed that thought to grow in my head, just appreciate it every time it happens. But it did lose some luster once you saw it. You're like, okay, now I've seen it. Then I saw it again, like right afterwards. You're like, okay, now I've seen it twice pretty close together. So it doesn't seem as big of a deal, but still a very cool accomplishment for Golden Tempo, one of the great horses of all time. Meanwhile, following up on a story from a few weeks ago that kind of went dormant because, well, just everything else is kind of taking precedent, but a little bit of an update on Live Golf. Talked a few weeks ago, I guess it was at this point, maybe a couple months ago, that Liv was facing the pullout of their funding from the PIF, the private investment fund, or is it the public or the private investment fund? I forget, but the Saudi Arabian PIF, they were at risk of losing that funding. And sure enough, they did in fact lose that funding, or the way to losing that funding, as Saudi Arabia pivots and decides to do some different things with its money in light of a lot of just current events that are going on. And that led to Liv going on the defensive and saying, no, we're good. We're good throughout the rest of the year. We're set to play this weekend. It's all good, but acknowledge that, yeah, there's some long-term ramifications, and they needed to go out and find some partners. And they've been talking in the updates I've seen to various people trying to figure out where they could find some backing, although it's hard to imagine of what collection of people, much less like one group of people, is going to give you the money that the Saudi Arabians gave you for no return, basically, other than a little bit of sports washing that didn't really amount to much in the long run. But this from Mark Schleybaugh today. Amidst reports that there are growing concerns within Live Golf that funding from Saudi Arabia's public investment fund might not last through the season, CEO Scott Neal stopped short of saying their final 4 tournaments will be played. He said he has to trust that PIF will follow through to fund the league through the remainder of the year. He said they've been terrific partners, and you have to take an incredible organization like PIF at their word, which some will find funny. They've been very public about funding us through the season, so we are full steam ahead. The players are locked in. The management is locked in. But it goes on to say, but when O'Neill was asked if he could guarantee the 4 remaining tournaments will be played as scheduled, he said, what I can guarantee is a heck of a return if you come invest in this business.
Yeah, in other words, we need money, and we'll help you if you help us invest your money. Yeah, it's public, by the way, is the first word in that PIF.
Yeah, so they're going to play in late July, and that's the next tournament in England for Live Golf. But now gone from we're good, no, that's all BS, it's totally fine. All right, there's a couple holes in the boat. We don't know how we're going to plug them just yet, but we're hopeful. We're talking to some people who know how to fix boats, and now we're still talking to people, but we can't guarantee we're going to reach the destination we might have to cut the trip short and end 4 stops earlier is basically what they're saying. But I talked about this a good deal a few weeks ago. I wanted to follow up on it, on where we are. We've gone from they're dying to they're still alive to they're trying to find a new respirator to They're still alive, but just the lifespan might not be as long towards the end of the year. It might be cut a little short, but we will see in the coming weeks. I think the conclusion here is inevitable. There is no entity out there that watched what Saudi Arabia did with PIF and the backing of this and is going, sign me up for that loss. Sign me up for just pouring millions and billions of dollars into fattening the pockets of Bryson DeChambeau for some vanity project. I don't foresee that. And so I think LIV is on its last legs, and today just another step probably towards that. Meanwhile, NBA Finals.
You know, in the end, they made waves because of the names that they stole or bought. Stole's not right, bought. And then they just flamed out. The PGA Tour had to react to it. A lot of players on the PGA Tour win because of it. But in the end, I did not know how long it would last. What was it, 3 years? Is that what it's been?
About 3 or so years, maybe 4-ish or somewhere around there. But yeah, I mean, it came storming in like the next big thing and had obviously massive backing, but the world has changed since then. They've never, to my knowledge, turned any kind of a profit. And how could you when you sink the hole so low to begin with, when you're giving the golfers like these absurd contracts because you have to get them to leave the PGA? In the long run, is it beneficial for the golf world as a whole that LIV existed? Yes, probably, because it created some necessary and some productive changes, but that's what it will be known for. It won't be known as and for some, it will be known as just a sports washing attempt by the Saudis to improve their standing and reputation in the world. But for other people, it's kind of a flash in the pan, another failed number 2 league in American sports or global sports that doesn't last very long. And we'll see. Maybe there's a surprise. Maybe some trillionaire decides that they're going to come in and fund LIV Golf. I just don't know what motivation you would have at this point or what it would really accomplish. So looks like they might not even make it to the end of the year, but we will see on that front. Meanwhile, NBA Finals last night, the Spurs kept it interesting, but not without a lot of controversy and just a lot of ugliness going on. But the Spurs win game number 3 in Madison Square Garden. Huge atmosphere and just feel to that game. Exactly what you want, like an NBA Finals game. Heated, good back and forth, very competitive. Spurs jumped out in front early. Knicks come storming back. And at halftime, you're just like, I don't know where the hell this thing goes.
You know where I thought it was? I thought it was over.
When the Knicks made their comeback.
Yeah, I said it was over. They're better, and they were up by 13 or whatever, and then bam, Spurs bounced back.
Yeah, it was Spurs jumped out a little bit, coming back out after halftime, fought back, and just a great tussle and a good game. But a lot of the extracurricular stuff, I think, taking kind of front page. But 115-111, Spurs avoid the sweep, and so now it is 2-1. The Knicks lead, and Wednesday we'll see game number 4 at Madison Square Garden. It's a 7:30 start time that will be on ABC. The president was in attendance last night. There was also the Wembanyama foul that wasn't called towards the end, and it's part of why I bring it up. I always bring up the finals and the games as far as they go along, but one of the top stories today was, in fact, players talking about another issue that I will get to, but the NBA coming out and saying, like, yeah, we absolutely missed a foul on Wembanyama pushing Jalen Brunson. And I'm sure you've seen the video circulating, or you saw it at the time in watching the game. But yeah, pretty egregious foul from Wemby that goes uncalled. And so, to the winner goes the spoils, I suppose. But a lot of talk today is not even about that ugliness or that call. And the officiating in general was a big topic of last night. I noticed was just a lot of talk about the officiating. I didn't delve too far into it, but was just glad to see the series get a little more balanced rather than just being a sweep. But the real true ugliness was not Wembanyama pushing Brunson, although for some it was, or even the state of NBA officiating and what you think of that. It's the fact that Wembanyama and other players are going to have to come out and talk about the violence in the streets of New York, as there's a video circulating of a Spurs fan getting jumped, getting his jersey ripped off,
getting his ass beat by multiple people.
One guy I saw defended himself pretty well, but Wembanyama, one of a few that it's come out and said, my thoughts are, of course, that we can't forget it's a game. We're just playing a game out there. I am all for passion, but with the respect of each other, it's unacceptable. Karl Anthony Towns of the Knicks, this game is built off of respect and passion. We want everyone to respect each other. We want everyone to enjoy basketball at it's purest state. It's the NBA Finals. There's no better place to watch basketball. Leave the physicality to everyone on the court. And it's very hostile. The Knicks, especially on their home court, a lot of videos out there of like I said, guy in a Spurs jersey getting his jersey ripped off. So hopefully they can contain that and kind of remedy that somehow moving forward. I don't know how you go about doing that, but it is entirely unacceptable. And I know you can't avoid it everywhere in a place like New York City, but just like I don't want to go old man here and go, well, the kids these days, because there's been hooligans for decades and decades, long before me, and there will be long after me. But yeah, man, just going and just jumping dudes on the street, not a new practice, but just an ugly side effect to this series. And seeing that just really made me sick to my stomach. And
I think that those who jump people are just looking for a reason.
Of course.
And an NBA game at an arena or a football game or a soccer game, whatever, is almost like their reason. And it sucks because there was a lot of attention because President Trump was going to be in attendance and they were worried about this and that. They moved the watch party. And then once I started reading up on it, they had to make changes because the president was going to be in the arena, but also because they've had problems anyway with the watch parties when just brawls open up but I say why, but I don't think most of those people are smart enough to answer it.
No, I mean, a lot of them are just hooligans. Like you'd see, like they're looking for a fight. They want to fight. There's no like real thought behind it. It's just caveman shit, or it's just ugly, bad people trying to inflict their ugliness and their hostility and their anger on just innocent people trying to walk the streets or go enjoy a basketball game. So it's nothing totally unique to New York. It's just something that's become very front and center, especially in light of the fact that you can put those videos 5 seconds later up on social media. You're seeing Spurs fans with their jerseys ripped off. It's ugly. There was pepper spray by the cops at one point. The watch party that wasn't a watch party, but still there was So I'm curious to see what they do ahead of Game 4, because the watch party was already, like you said, it was already controversial without the president. Like that had nothing to do. I mean, it had something to do with them moving, but that was already a conversation. To be fair and balanced, if you will, that was already something that was a topic of discussion. Was, hey, these watch parties, we got to kind of be careful with these things. And then it was just easy to say once you had to like, okay, we're just going to move this thing, but it didn't stop it. It didn't stop it from there still being some incidents. And in a city like New York, you probably can't fully stop it, but we'll see how Game 4 goes, as that was one of the big stories coming out of last night's game, besides that big Spurs win. 5 police officers injured, bunch of arrests. So, man alive. Get ready if there's a celebration, what that looks like in New York City.
It's a burn down of town or the neighborhood, not because of riots, but because you win. I've never understood that. It's been going on forever. It's not new, like you said, but it's like, hey, let's win and then let's torch our neighborhood. It never has made sense to me.
No, but most people that are celebrating aren't thinking all that clearly, probably to begin with. But nevertheless, we'll see how that goes. Game 4 tomorrow, and then finally game number 4 in the NHL tonight. Golden Knights hosting the Carolina Hurricanes. Vegas leads 2-1, 7:00 on ABC. An absolute all-timer of a third period and conclusion in overtime the other night as the Golden Knights up 4-0. All of a sudden, here comes Carolina, 4 goals in the third period. like 3 in a matter of just like a few minutes. And just unbelievable to watch how that turned on its head. And then eventually Vegas still prevails. They prevail in overtime to take the 2-1 series lead. So tonight they're at home trying to get one step closer to Lord Stanley's Cup. Again, 7 on ABC. There's a few things off the radar.
I was in Tampa. Oh, no, I was on the east coast of Florida watching that 4-0 Vegas, and 2 goals were taken off because of icing. No. Offsides, and there was another one where somebody clipped the goalie. And I'm watching it. Philip and his wife, Miriam, they go to bed. Mike's on the back porch playing his video games on his phone. And all of a sudden, 39 seconds, it was 4-3. And I actually screamed like, oh, like that. And they were trying to, I was like, I'm sorry. And they had not been paying attention. And all of a sudden they got locked in. And of course, a great game in the end. Thank you, Craig. Off the radar coming up, Hall of Fame columnist John McClain on many things. He will have an opinion as well. This is 365 Sports.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoke Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with David Smoke and Craig Smoke.
And here we are, Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Man, we've got a lot to discuss, and we will, and also something to promote a little bit later in the segment. John, thanks for your time with Craig and me. We appreciate it. What are your thoughts about the decision, the ruling involving Brendan Sorsby?
Well, first of all, guys, the visiting judge from Tarrant County, who's a University of Houston Law School graduate, not a Texas Tech graduate, made a decision that everybody in the country not disagrees with, of course. And the appellate court in Amarillo has 4 judges, all from Texas Tech's law school. And they're not going to hear it till February. So from everything I've read and heard, the only way Brendan Sorsby's not going to play, except for those 2 games in which he's suspended, is if the Big 12 does something. And there's no guarantee the Big 12 could do it. They could get an injunction against them. But I'll point out, if Sorsby plays for Tech and Tech is good and wins in the playoffs, that's money that's going to be distributed to the other schools in the Big 12. TV ratings will probably be up when Sorsby is playing because there's so much commotion about him. Fans, might be more fans show up for Texas Tech. I mean, we've talked more about Texas Tech in the last year than I can remember in my lifetime. And I think it's great because I love college sports, even when it's controversial. And all this huffing and puffing by these schools. When I saw Georgia's AD, give me a break. Has Brendan Sorsby broken the law? No. Have any Georgia players broken the law, like on the Audubon they have set up down the middle of Athens? That was their wreck in which players were killed? Yeah, that's breaking the law. So Georgia just needs to put a lid on it, because for them to take a holier than thou attitude, are you bleeping kidding me? We're talking about Georgia. The only one worse would be if LSU came out and huffed and puffed about it. So I think Sorsby's going to play. Hammond, their quarterback, who's supposed to be the starter, who I think blew out his knee, is supposedly coming back before they thought he would, maybe by the second game, possibly the third. But I know one thing, it's great talk show fodder for this time of year.
Yes, it is, John. And it's just an interesting story now, because before it was already just interesting and like, okay, is he going to be able to play? Is he not? And then what does that mean for Tech? But now, I mean, we spent easily the first hour just going through, all right, how does the Big 12 now react? What can the Big 12 do? What makes sense for them to do? There was a report from Brandon Marcello saying that all the ADs in the Big 12 are against Sorsby playing this year, and made that clear in their meeting today. Now, what that means moving forward, I guess they're still talking through that. But then there's like, does the playoff committee use this against them? Do Georgia and Nebraska really not schedule them? And then do others follow suit? And does that suddenly actually really hurt Texas Tech? Like, it's amazing. I guess we didn't anticipate this outcome, but I never could have envisioned even this outcome would have turned into just this crazy blow up of all these other different angles to it.
How many of these other schools have cheated like crazy when it was illegal? That's what gets me. The SEC, the dirtiest conference in the country, the things that have gone on in that school, in that conference over the decades, and they're talking about not scheduling Texas Tech, and Texas Tech's, oh my God, we don't get to play Georgia. And I think it's just preposterous, the hand-wringing, all the reactions from media people. Woe is us, that's going to be the end of college sports. Just like NIL is going to be the end of college sports. What do you mean they can transfer all they want? That's going to ruin college sports. The bottom line is, when they get to play the games are better than ever. And the coaches today, they are coaching under circumstances that their predecessors never had to deal with. Can you imagine what it's like being a college coach right now? And every year you basically have a new team. NFL teams don't have to worry about that. And that's why I have such great respect for the college coaches, the way they are adapting to the world in which we live. And at some point, the Sorsby thing will die out. I wish that it would get overruled, but it's set for February. What good does that do? And so I think that he should have been suspended. It should have been upheld, and he should go in the NFL's draft, in the supplementary draft, and see where somebody takes him. I guarantee you somebody will use to pick like a second-round pick. The NFL will take anybody. They've taken people who killed people and brought them back to play. And so I think if Sorsby can play, it won't matter. I'm guessing the kid is not going to be placing any more bets.
He better not, or else then yeah, I don't think that there's going to be anybody, not even Cody Campbell or Joey Maguire, that will stand at his back if he doesn't learn his lesson from this. So you would think so. But I was going to ask you about the NFL reaction to this, and you've already laid it out that, like, hey, if he just plays well, he'll get drafted high, or whenever he gets drafted. I guess the only thing now, John, that we will need to see is, as these talks go on, of whether or not somehow, some way, the Big 12 schools or just external pressure gets to Tech to the point where they just say, you know what, we're going to pay maybe Brendan all his money and he just decides to leave, or maybe he just personally can't face this. I doubt that'll happen, but that's really the only other outcome outside of him just everybody moving forward as is.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. They want to win. They're paying him millions of dollars for a reason, is because he's a good quarterback. It's funny. Tech came forward about the gambling. Indiana knew about it, didn't come forward. Cincinnati knew about it and didn't come forward. But what happened, and I saw one of his lawyers, I think it was when they were being heard last week, and he said, if they don't let this kid come back, that just discourages from any other player with a gambling addiction from coming forward. And it was pointed out, Sorsby didn't come forward. He got caught.
Right.
No, absolutely. There's no question about it. And that's one of the things that he didn't say. Hey, he didn't go to Tech.
I think that's why people are pissed,
Yeah.
is that they don't feel that this is genuine or anything.
Made it sound like, hey, I need to check myself into rehab, which when people have to do that, it is a hard decision and very, very tough. But he did it once the NCAA informed Tech about the issue, which was, I guess, tipped off by a book.
One of the betting services, because they keep track of things that come over that are suspicious, and that's how he got caught. And when you see all those bets, when I read that he had thousands and thousands and thousands of bets, how did he play football? Maybe he didn't go to school. How did he get dates? What did he have time to do other than place bets? And I heard today, I can't remember who it was, say if another player's going to bet, he bet a lot, because if you only bet a few times, you can't claim addiction. And if you're addiction, that's a mental health issue. And that's that judge. I'd love for that judge to have to answer questions about why he made the ruling that he ruled in that 2-game suspension against Little Sisters of the Poor. But I know this, I'll be watching Tech. If he's playing, I'll watch him anyway, but I'll be watching him with extra interest if Sorsby is the quarterback.
Can you think of anything, the league that you covered for years and years, and you still do, the NFL? I remember back in the 60s, was it Alex Karras that was caught up?
Paul Hornung and Alex Karras, two guys are among the best players for the Packers and the Lions. Pete Rozelle suspended them for a season because they had bet on a game. There's instances of college players have been caught. There was an Iowa lineman who bet on Caitlin Clark, who got suspended. I guess now they're looking back and they're going, oh, man, why didn't we get a judge that is going to give us the ruling we want? And that judge's decision, people are blasting Tech. They ought to be blasting the judge.
Hey, let me ask you this. Is it the NFL? There's a pool reporter, right? So if there's anything to ask when it comes to a call, there's one person that represents the entire media. Is that after every game, no matter what, that they have a pool reporter talking to an official or whoever runs the officiating?
No, David, it's if somebody requests a controversial call.
Okay.
And every team for home team has a number 1 and number 2 pool reporter. I used to be the one here forever. And I said, take me off of it because it's a primetime game. You got to go do interviews, but you got to go to the official's dressing room and you got to take out a tape recorder and record them and ask the questions. And then the team has to transcribe it and send it out to everybody. So it's a pain in the butt, but it still exists when it's asked for.
You know, you mentioned Cincinnati and you mentioned Indiana, John, and I don't seem like I get conflicting information about what they actually knew or when they actually knew it. And right now they're over there just kind of watching this thing. At some point, you would think some kind of, not on a testimony, whatever it's called, will come forward. And I hope both of them are fine. But at some point, you think that information would be out there for the public to know too.
Well, you'd have to prove it. And I doubt either one of them's going to come say, oh, yeah, we knew it was going on, and we just let him do it.
Yeah, I'm tired enough of this 2 to 3 days into this one, but I'm not trying to say they did anything, but you would help if you were able to get that information
if
too.
the Big 12 doesn't do anything, then it's a done deal. He's playing because that appeal is in February.
I know. Yep. No, yeah, you're right. You're right. Hey, let's discuss this. We have the image we're going to put up on the screen. John, this is something you discussed with us. You sent us a link. It's unbelievable. And you at Mad Dog Entertainment, which is great because that was your, I think, nickname. Tell everybody about what's coming up, not this week, but next in Waco.
On June 17th, me and the director, Mark Burns, the executive producer, Scott Nethery, and producer Rob Lynch, we're going to Corpus Christi. They're honoring us. They're having a viewing because Corpus Christi Miller won the first integrated state championship in 1960 over Wichita Falls, and it was played at Baylor Stadium. And then the next day, we're going to be in Waco, Texas Sports Hall of Fame.
It's the PVIL story. This is a documentary that John has been involved with for a while, with some unbelievable Hall of Fame names as well. There we go.
In 1964. And so we've got Jimmy Johnson interviewed. We went to Key Largo, Florida, and talked to Jimmy because the head coach of that Corpus Christi Miller team said the best team we beat wasn't Wichita Falls in the finals at Baylor Stadium. It was the semifinals, Port Arthur Jefferson, and the best player we ever played against was a little nose guard named Jimmy Johnson. And so Jimmy regaled us with stories about the times, the games when the All-Black Prairie Interscholastic League played independently of the all-white University Interscholastic League for 50 years until LBJ put down the hammer and made every school integrate. And so Joe Green, Kenny Houston, Night Train Lane from Austin, Cliff Branch, there were 7 Hall of Famers and a lot more great players like Johnny Rowland, NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. And so we have a blast. We're honored. We can't wait to come to Waco. Appreciate you letting me ask about it. Just show up and show the Hall of Fame. They're going to need to put out a whole lot of chairs to show the PVIL story, separate but equal.
To close it out with this, you mentioned Jimmy Johnson and his role, et cetera, with that team. Was there any story that when you sat there and watched the interview or were part of the interview where it like just took your breath away?
I conducted all the interviews, and several times when I was interviewing people, they got emotional. And the great story of Eldridge Dickey, who was the greatest PVIL quarterback ever, the first black quarterback drafted in the first round in 1968 by the Raiders, whose career was destroyed when Al Davis moved him to receiver and special teams. And the only reason he drafted him was to keep him away from Hank Stram and the Chiefs, because he found out that Stram was looking at him and was scouting him. And the other one that got me, and I wish we had put more of these pictures in there, but in our governor at that time, Alan Shivers, they were supposed to integrate Mansfield High School up by Fort Worth. Shivers sent the Texas Rangers in there to try to keep the black kids from coming. And we have a picture in which the Texas Rangers just sitting there acting like it's no big deal when they have a black dummy hanging from the entrance to the school with a noose around its neck to discourage the black kids from coming to school. And I think that's probably a pretty good way to do it. But the fact that our governor and our Texas Rangers were involved, so many things like that just blew me away.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to see how many people get there and watch it. Good luck with it as well. John, we'll see you then. Thanks for your time. It was great to see you in Waco at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame committee meeting that we had last week.
Yes, it was. Dave and Craig, thank you very much as always.
You too. That's a man, unbelievable knowledge and mind and storytelling with us on Tuesdays, usually at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, John's an NFL guy at heart, but has a lot of love for the other sports and a lot of opinions on a lot of ththings as well. And it's always good to just chat him up about whatever's blowing around. And in this case, a lot of it, Brendan Sorsby. And I think the part about Cincinnati is their day is going to come where the lamp will get turned in their direction like a police interrogation in the old days, right? And just put the light on them and be like, what did you know about? Like, there's going to probably come that point for them. I don't know that it amounts to anything substantial. And I know why every Tech fan that I've seen is trying to what about them and what about Indiana and what about this or what about Texas had this happen 2 years ago and what about Baylor and what about Penn State and what about, and then saying, well, we're not what about. And it's like, there's a lot of what about going on, and I get it. But I think the real spotlight is going to remain right there in Lubbock. But I do think that, yeah, eventually we will get to a point where Cincinnati, you at least have to show what was going on while he was there, especially since you could have prevented this all to begin with, potentially. And you didn't, so why didn't you do that? That question does deserve to be answered, their culpability, if any, and what was going on there. And I don't think that would necessarily make them in line for any sort of a punishment, but who knows? And who knows how far down the road that would get. But I don't think anybody's just letting them off the hook entirely. I think right now, though, the focus is right at ground zero, and that's where Brendan Sorsby's now just back to normal, and everything's just as you planned it after these last couple months of just pure chaos and speculation and court issues and whatever else. Now it's just he's the quarterback at Texas Tech. He's got to sit out 2 games. Still does not, and we know we're not going to hear from this judge who made this just totally improbable decision that still doesn't make any sense, quite frankly. I mean, outside of the mental health piece, but what a Pandora's box that is. So I maintain that I just feel like this judge could just not know what the hell they were talking about to begin with and had absolutely no other idea of what their decision would turn into. And I like to think of what they must have been the reaction of turning on Twitter and seeing everybody losing their ever-loving minds over this decision that you've just made. But, yeah, I think it's just a really interesting story that somehow got more interesting, as much as I know for a lot of people it took a worse turn or they're tired of it. I'm very curious about how the Big 12 moves forward. And very curious about if there's any other teams that want to stick their neck out there and say, you know what, we're not playing them either in any sport. All right, scratch Georgia off the list, scratch Nebraska off the list. How many teams are we going to scratch off the list? And then on the other side of that, what does that look like? Yeah, it's not over yet. Although we got the decision we were all waiting for, it's just led to a lot more questions.
And they will continue into the evening, and also back here again tomorrow. We'll be at 3, but we're not done yet with this show today. Let us spin. Oh, got super chats. I remember, Rez, we have a couple of super chats. We will put them up. From Evil Badger, the B12, the Big 12 should expel Texas Tech. Well, they're not going to do that, but we appreciate the opinion and also the super chat.
Yeah, Evil Badger, I appreciate the super chat. Thanks for being along for the ride. First time seeing your name. So welcome, and thanks for your 2 cents. I think that's highly unlikely. I go back to the start of the show, and I know hearing me right out of the gates, like, not defending Texas Tech, but just saying, like, what can the Big 12 do? There is, I am going to acknowledge, and maybe didn't do as well in the first part, that whole damaging the brand part of things that you could say, well, and that's what they had with the whole Baylor situation was, irreparable harm to the Big 12 conference brand. You brought a bad light onto the league, and you can get punished for that. And so I suppose that the Big 12 can take that route. I think, though, it's a delicate balancing act where here is a big moneymaker for you. Here's a team who was your best team a year ago, who stands to be probably your best team again, although BYU, among others, will have something to say about that. They are one of your best bets, if not the best bet, to make the college football playoff and actually win some games potentially. So how do you handle that element of it, but also take into account 15 other schools, reactions to it?
We know where the 15 others stand because of Brandon Marcello and a little bit of what I got earlier today. What are you going to do?
I think the simplest thing would I don't know what seems like a logical thing for the Big 12 to do outside of like, hey,
well,
here's you can't have this happen in the next 2 years or else it leads to this. But I don't know what that would look like. That would be for the lawyers to drop. I do think that maybe you could have like a fine of some sort that's not like ridiculous amount, but is like a storm in the field fine of if you brought a bad look to the league. I know there would be immediate pushback from the folks in Lubbock, of course, on that. But yeah, I don't know what you do.
When Baylor was fined, but it's like 3 or 4 years of TV revenue. Eventually, some of it was returned, or it didn't last that long.
They were on probation, basically.
They were, and they were so scared, and the leadership was so fragile, and they were petrified of everything, and they did not fight back, which was one of their problems. Although may have helped a little bit. They was like, just tell me how many times you're going to whip me. And they didn't fight back. I think Tech would fight back in some ways.
Well, I also don't think Baylor had much ground to fight back. I think their story was awful, and I think some of the facts got skewed along the way, but I think it's comparing apples to pineapples to think that they're in the similar ballpark or like you'd get a similar reaction, because on the one hand, a judge made a decision here. On the other hand, that was a whole slew of things that is way too complicated to unpack here. There was a lot of good reporting. There was a lot of awful reporting on that. It was a totally different animal, that story. So I don't like to draw a parallel. It's much closer to Iowa State. It's what it's closer to, a gambling thing. But, yeah, I mean, Baylor did get a conference punishment of sorts. I think that's way different though, and I don't know how you would like try to, okay, we did this for this situation, what does that look like but for gambling? Like I don't know. That's what they're probably talking through right now, is there's a feeling that they need to do something, but do you go too extreme and then you harm the league overall because now you've created even a greater divide and then everything's back where it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, where there's suddenly all of these fractures? Like that's Brett Yormark's job to navigate.
That's exactly right, and especially with the AD saying that his voice is the one that they will adhere to, and let him be the one who speaks. But yeah, the Brendan Marcello information was awfully interesting. All right, let us go to the second one from Retired Stockbroker. Hit the subscribers. Let's get 365 Sports to 75,000 members. We're right on the edge. I think it's like maybe even single digits. And Retired Stockbroker sent me a map, and we didn't put it up, but we're not going to put it up today, of the most hated college football program in America. And every state was a Texas Tech logo, except in Ohio where it said Michigan.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Retired Stockbroker's wife, Les, who's a Michigan alum, enjoyed the hell out of that.
I'm sure, yeah, and saw that floating around as well. And thank you, Retired Stockbroker, for the support. Yeah, we're awfully close to 75, and I would love to get there before the end of the day today, but certainly before the end of the week, that would be nice. So hopefully we can.
Here is us and Andrew Valade as we, with Rez, spin the wheel. Man, there's a lot of topics.
Have you ever seen a cover band? If so, what band are they covering? I'm sure I have, but nothing that's memorable. I don't have like a specific, I saw this Pink Floyd cover band. I know I've seen some, but yeah, nothing memorable enough for me to be able to pop off a name here.
No, I don't. Sometimes I don't even realize what that is. I do know what that is. I've seen cover bands who have done and been at places like there's one called Rat Ranch that was in Tyler that was a great cover band, but they were playing at a place called Rick's. Fantastic, but I've never actually seen a cover band other than I guess that would be me seeing a cover band at a different moment. All right. Thank you very much. Let's go to the quizzes today. 2 different quizzes. Can we go 2-0? On this day in 2008, Ken Griffey Jr. hit his 600th career home run, becoming just the 6th player in baseball history to reach the mark. Which team was the kid playing for?
At that point, 2008, he's playing for, I believe, the Cincinnati Reds at that stage of his career. I'm trying to think about the White Sox. But yeah, I think it's the Cincinnati Reds.
I guess so. I don't know enough about it. Like, I'm pretty good. If it was 1978, I could help you with this. But I remember his dad, senior, but I do know how great the kid was, but I don't know the teams that he played for other than Seattle.
I remember his dad. I hope so. Yeah, I hope you remember
All
his
right,
dad.
what's the answer? We say Cincinnati. Oh, Craig, you got it right. Good for you. We're 1-0. God, I love that stinger. I hope play it all the time. You can read it since you got it.
While fans associate Junior with Seattle, he hit his 600th home run with the Reds, a 413-foot blast off Marlins pitcher Mark Hendrickson. Griffey credited legends Willie Mays and Hank Aaron for helping him relax, as both called him days prior to offer encouragement before he joined them in baseball's elite 600 home run club. Love me some Ken Griffey. He's apparently a really good sports photographer. Weird how both he and Randy Johnson became sports photographers in their post careers, but kind of cool as well that they were teammates and now share that hobby in later life. But love some Griffey, still do, and like the Reds just because of the red and black uniform. Seemed pretty cool with him wearing it, but don't have too many other memories outside of that.
I didn't even realize that he played that many years with Cincinnati. I think I counted 9. Chicago for a year, then back to Seattle for a couple of years where he spent his first 10 or 11 years. All right, 1-0. Let's go to 2-0. Phil Jackson won 11 championship rings as a coach, but his first 2 came in 1970s. The Knicks as a player. How did the future Zen master famously commute to home games at Madison Square Garden?
Don't know.
I'm looking at the 2 that you would think, but like knowing Jackson, he's a little bit off the wall. I would say maybe even a bicycle, but he was pretty tall, so I'm not sure how that would work out. It's got to be one of those 2 that seem like they're off of a little bit different, like he was.
I mean, they're all kind of different to go to games every day. I don't know. I don't have. I mean, literally.
To me, the answer would be Subway, because that's what of those are the ones that most likely you would use.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you got to get a far place, I suppose you got the money to take a cab a long ways, but I don't know where he was living at the time. So what the hell? I mean, just pick a answer. I have no idea.
I want to go with bicycle.
All right, bicycle.
Dear God!
There you go.
Oh my goodness! I really thought we were gonna. Long before he was suit-wearing executive or a Zen master coach, Jackson was a countercultural flower child who rode his bike to Madison Square Garden while spinal surgery kept him off the court for the 1970 title. He was a key bench player and piece for the 73 championship that featured an astonishing 7 future Hall of Fame players. So I was right. And bicycle, that's kind of something I think he would do. So bicycle, we went 2-0.
Makes sense being in New York City. I mean, any of those things, it's not like there was one like just bizarre answer. They all make sense. Subway, cab, bike, skateboard.
Got a backpack on his bike and goes to the arena, gets dressed, and goes to work one way or the other. All right, we were 2-0. Now let's get to the poll results from the great viewership. Who wins the 2026 NBA Finals after the Spurs got back in it with that Game 3 win and statement? Still 5 or 6 games, the Knicks are the favorite at 40%.
As of last night, I would take the Knicks in 5 or 6 games based on what we've seen at this point. Did not put together like a well-constructed opinion on this series beforehand. Just said, I think San Antonio will probably win it. Don't know. But just based on what we've seen at this point, I'd go with the Knicks in 5 or 6 games as well. I think it's going to be tough for San Antonio to win a couple more, but maybe a hell of a Game 7 if at all possible. And New York is going to be rowdy for game number 4. That's going to be quite the scene here coming up tomorrow night. But yeah, it's been plenty heated already, and only expect that to tick up as we get deeper into this thing.
So last night, Paxton texted me about many things, and there are times I just can't respond. But he was talking about the Spurs had a great start. He goes, hey, we should have put 20,000 on the Spurs. And I went, no. And then by the time I looked at the score, they were down 13. I didn't watch much of the first half, but then they played great in the second half. That's why you don't gamble, Brendan, and anyone else. I'll say the Knicks. Golly, man, the Spurs got off the mat, though. They're home tonight. I'm going to say the Spurs will win in 7. I think they flipped the switch last night. We'll see. I do think the Knicks are just deeper.
Yeah, I mean, it's two really good teams. I think it's going to be a fun finish wherever we land, but I like the Knicks as of right now.
Number 2 poll question. Thank you for those who participated. Did the court make the right choice by overturning the NCAA's lifetime ban? 86%. Not a surprise. No, gambling is a hard line, or you could just say as well, gambling means a hard no.
Yeah, I thought we'd get a question like this yesterday and get a big reaction to it, and we still got a big reaction today to it. So I'm glad we at least polled the people on what's obviously been the topic of the last 48 hours or so. And I'm, totally on board with no, gambling is a hard line. I just thought, how could you think otherwise? And as far as I'm concerned, again, I would just love to know, like, what level of college sports knowledge or just sports knowledge did this judge have equipped when they were going over this decision? Because if they, like, I don't know, I don't want to start unpacking it all, but if you knew what you were doing, then that leads to other questions. And if you didn't know what you were doing, that leads to other questions. Like, it's just a confusing place where we ended up, where everybody seemed to be on the same page as far as the mental health part of this. Of the route that obviously this judge was sympathetic to. I'm sympathetic to mental health as well. I also know it can be used and abused. I think that Sorsby, through his counseling and various admissions and being in rehab for a period of time, obviously showed some contrition and some desire to better himself, and I give him some credit for that. Now, was it only in reaction to knowing that this was his only chance to try to save face? Yeah, very well could have been. Very well could have been. You cannot rule that out unless you're Brendan Sorsby himself. So I'm all for supporting mental health. I just don't know why that means that you have no repercussions and you just get to go do what you wanted to do despite all of the rules that you broke, and the punishment is only a couple of games that they don't even need you for to begin with, and you learn absolutely nothing outside of the public embarrassment. Your career is completely unaffected, and you I guess are hopefully being honest about it, but I don't know why your mental health means that you have to play football at Texas Tech, or otherwise this whole thing is going to burn down. That's the part that I just will never agree with or understand fully.
No, I agree. You said it well. 86%, a huge number, and look at the votes. Nearly 1,000 votes. It's a hot topic, and that's why Andrew put it up. Thank you very much to Rez and Garrett, also Logan Bagessi, and Andrew Valade, who puts together the final piece of what we do every day, plus the polls at the start, and sometimes putting them inside of what we do. Thank you, our audience. Thanks to our great sponsors. We're back at it again tomorrow. Who knows what might change between now and then? Whatever it is, we'll be here. Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for your time, and good night.